Before the first word was carved into stone, something else was already standing. Vast structures, precisely shaped, impossibly massive, built by hands we cannot name, using methods we still struggle to explain. These are not myths, but physical remnants scattered across the world, older than written history and, in some cases, more precise than modern engineering allows. How were they built? Why here? And what kind of knowledge did their creators possess? Tonight, we look beyond familiar timelines and comfortable explanations into a deeper past where human capability may have been far greater and far stranger than we've been taught. Let's begin where history falls silent. At the edge of the Jordan Valley, where the desert air hangs heavy and the land dips far below sea level, the ancient mound of Jericho rises quietly from the earth. Layer upon layer of human occupation is compressed into this tell, making it one of the oldest continuously inhabited places on the planet. Amid crumbling mud brick walls and traces of forgotten dwellings stands a structure that feels out of place in deep time, the Tower of Jericho. The tower is massive, even by modern standards. Built of stone and standing over 8 meters tall, it was constructed around 9,500 BCE, thousands of years before the invention of pottery, metal tools, or writing. A narrow staircase of 22 steep steps winds upward inside its solid body, leading to a summit that once overlooked the surrounding settlement. For a community of early Neolithic people, still transitioning from hunting and gathering to agriculture, the effort required to quarry, transport, and assemble these stones would have been extraordinary. Mainstream archaeology describes the tower as part of a defensive system. Jericho sat near seasonal floodwaters, and some researchers argue the structure may have functioned as a retaining wall or flood control installation, protecting early homes from erosion. Others suggest it served as a watchtower, guarding stored grain and resources at a time when social organization was becoming more complex. These explanations are practical, grounded, and supported by parallels in later settlements. Yet questions linger. The tower's precision is striking. Its conical shape, internal staircase, and alignment raise doubts about purely utilitarian explanations. Excavations have revealed that the staircase appears to align with the setting sun during the summer solstice, casting shadows that interact with nearby Mount Kuruntul. Was this intentional or coincidence? For a society without written language, could the tower have functioned as a ceremonial or symbolic structure, an expression of emerging cosmology rather than simple defense? Some researchers propose that the Tower of Jericho may represent one of humanity's earliest monumental constructions built for collective ritual. The act of building itself could have reinforced social bonds, shared identity, or a sense of place in a changing world. In this view, the tower was less about protection and more about meaning, an architectural marker signaling humanity's growing awareness of time, seasons, and the heavens. Beyond academic circles, more speculative theories emerge. Fringe researchers point to the tower as evidence of advanced planning knowledge far earlier than traditionally accepted. They note the engineering skill required to stabilize such a structure on uneven terrain and the coordinated labor needed to complete it. Could this suggest the existence of specialized builders, inherited knowledge, or traditions lost to time? Some even question whether Jericho's builders were influenced by earlier cultures for which no trace remains. There are also debates about the tower's relationship to death and ancestry. Nearby excavations uncovered skulls, plastered and decorated, likely used in ritual contexts. This has led to theories that the tower was part of a broader symbolic landscape, perhaps a focal point for ceremonies honoring ancestors or mediating between the living and the dead. The internal staircase, enclosed and ascending, feels almost processional, inviting movement upward rather than outward. What is clear is that the Tower of Jericho does not fit neatly into a single explanation. It stands at the threshold between prehistory and civilization, between survival and symbolism. It challenges the assumption that early humans were solely concerned with immediate needs, showing instead an ability, and perhaps a desire, to build beyond necessity. As the sun sets over the Jordan Valley and shadows stretch across the ancient stones, the tower remains silent. Its builders left no words, no inscriptions, no stories, only stone and intention. Whether it was a fortification, a monument to the sky, or something we have yet to imagine, the Tower of Jericho continues to ask the same quiet question across 10 millennia. How much of our earliest history have we truly understood, and how much is still buried beneath the dust, waiting to be seen? Continuing from the Tower of Jericho, our journey takes us westward across the millennia and the continent, from the arid valleys of the Jordan to the windswept coasts of Brittany, France. Here, among tidal channels and rocky islets, lies one of Europe's most enigmatic and meticulously crafted megalithic monuments, Gavrinis. Unlike the solitary mass of Jericho's tower, Gavrinis is a tomb, yet it is no ordinary resting place. It is a passage, a labyrinth of stone, a quiet testament to the ingenuity and symbolic vision of people who lived more than 5,000 years ago. The island itself is small, connected to the mainland only by a narrow causeway, its shores battered by cold Atlantic tides. At first glance, Gavrinis seems modest, an unassuming mound crowned with grass and earth, blending with the landscape as if to hide its secrets. Yet beneath its gentle exterior lies a stone passageway of staggering complexity. Constructed from massive slabs of granite, some weighing several tons, the interior walls are covered with intricate carvings, spirals, lozenges, chevrons, and depictions of abstract forms that hint at a symbolic language lost to time. Every stone seems deliberate, every design intentional, yet their meaning remains elusive. Archaeologists date Gavrinis to around 3,500 BCE, placing it firmly in the Neolithic period. In practical terms, it served as a collective burial site, a place where the dead were placed, honored, and perhaps transformed through ritual. Yet the scale and precision of the construction suggest something far beyond simple funerary needs. The passage measures over 14 meters in length, aligned in a way that may capture the light at specific times of year, though interpretations vary. Could the builders have understood solar patterns, lunar cycles, or other celestial events? Or did the alignment serve a purely symbolic purpose, perhaps guiding the spirits of the deceased? Inside the corridor, the carvings reveal a sophistication that continues to astonish. Geometric patterns repeat and interlock, spiraling inward as if drawing the viewer into a meditative or trance-like state. Some scholars suggest these motifs represent cosmological concepts, maps of the heavens, cycles of life and death, or even a coded system of knowledge. Others propose that the carvings were intended to convey social or spiritual authority, reinforcing the power of those who commissioned the monument. Yet, without a written record, these interpretations remain conjectural. The stones themselves pose further questions. The slabs were quarried locally, but moving and positioning them required extraordinary coordination, strength, and knowledge of leverage. There is evidence that the builders understood how to balance enormous weight and create durable structures without mortar. Such skill hints at shared expertise, passed down through generations, yet the origins of that knowledge are unknown. How did a relatively small Neolithic community achieve such technical precision? Could there have been networks of knowledge stretching across prehistoric Europe, now vanished from the historical record? Outside the realm of mainstream archaeology, more speculative ideas emerge. Some researchers suggest that Gavrinis, like other megalithic sites, may encode astronomical, mathematical, or even mystical principles far beyond what we typically associate with Neolithic communities. Others point to the similarity of its carvings with motifs found in distant regions, from the Mediterranean to the British Isles, raising the tantalizing question of cultural exchange or shared symbolic language across prehistoric Europe. Were these similarities coincidental, or did they hint at a sophisticated understanding of geometry and cosmology that has been lost to time? Equally compelling is the monument's quiet power to evoke awe. Walking through the passage, one is struck not only by the craftsmanship, but by the deliberate intimacy of the space. The narrow corridor, flanked by towering stones, encourages reflection and presence. It is a design that engages both body and mind, merging practical construction with profound intention. Were the architects aiming to create an experiential journey, a ritual passage from life to death, from the known to the unknown? Or is it merely an aesthetic expression whose original meaning we may never grasp? Gavrinis sits in a landscape that has changed little over 5 millennia. Tidal waters lap against the stones, winds whistle through the carvings, and yet the monument endures, preserving a message or a mystery that refuses to be simplified. It stands as a silent witness to human ambition, ingenuity, and imagination, echoing questions that remain unanswered. What inspired its builders to invest such extraordinary effort into a single tomb? What knowledge, belief, or vision guided their hands as they shaped each stone? And most importantly, what else of human history lies buried beneath the surface, waiting for us to uncover it, if only we knew how to look? As the Atlantic light fades over Gavrinis, casting long shadows across the engraved corridor, the monument remains both familiar and alien, a place where history, art, and enigma converge. For the visitor, scholar, or wanderer, it offers no definitive answers, only the quiet, persistent invitation to wonder. What did the people of this island know, and what part of their knowledge has been lost to the tides of time? The questions linger, compelling us onward in the search for the ancient ingenuity that built not only Gavrinis, but countless other monuments whose secrets remain just beyond our reach. Flowing from the wind-swept island of Gavrinis, where carved stones whisper of ritual, celestial cycles, and vanished knowledge, we turn now to the rolling hills of southern England. Nestled in the chalklands near Avebury, the West Kennet Long Barrow stretches over 100 meters. A monumental tomb that has endured for nearly 5,500 years. Unlike the compact, intricate passage of Gavrinis, West Kennet is expansive, a low earthen mound punctuated by stone chambers, demanding attention across the landscape as if asserting its presence to anyone who passes by. Approaching the barrow, the first impression is one of serene antiquity. The mound rises gently from the surrounding grassland, its sides worn smooth by centuries of weather, footsteps, and time itself. At each end, massive sarsen stones mark the entrance to burial chambers, standing like silent sentinels, their surfaces pitted and scored by millennia of rain and wind. Inside, the chambers are dark and cool, lined with dry stone walls and capped with enormous lintels that seem impossibly heavy for a society without cranes, pulleys, or written schematics. Archaeologists date West Kennet to around 3,650 BCE, placing it within Britain's early Neolithic period, shortly after the introduction of farming. Excavations have revealed the remains of at least 46 individuals, their bones carefully placed within the chambers. Some skeletons show signs of cremation, others of secondary burial, indicating complex mortuary practices. Yet, for all its apparent function as a tomb, the scale of the construction and the effort involved suggest that its purpose may have extended beyond the practical. Why would a relatively small community devote decades of labor to create a structure of such size and permanence? The architecture itself raises intriguing questions. The chambers are aligned along an east-west axis, a deliberate choice that could relate to solar movements or other celestial phenomena. At dawn, the light entering the eastern end would illuminate the interior, perhaps marking seasonal events or symbolizing the passage from life to death. The precise reasoning remains speculative, but the alignment hints at an awareness of astronomical cycles far beyond simple observation. Adding to the mystery are the choices of material and technique. The builders transported enormous sarsen stones from quarries many miles away, maneuvering them across uneven terrain, using what we can only imagine as primitive yet remarkably effective methods. The stones are carefully positioned, with each lintel and wall slab interlocking to form chambers capable of withstanding millennia. Could this indicate a deeper knowledge of structural engineering than traditionally attributed to Neolithic communities? Or is it a testament to sheer determination and collaborative effort, the kind that can emerge in societies seeking to define their presence on the land or perhaps to communicate with forces beyond human comprehension? Inside the chambers, subtle details provoke further reflection. Some stones bear traces of red ochre, faint smears that may have been ritualistic, symbolic, or even communicative. Patterns of deposition within the barrow suggest repeated use over generations, implying a sustained reverence for ancestors and tradition. The repeated entrances and chambers may have facilitated ritual performance, guiding participants along a journey both physical and symbolic. Could West Kennet have served as a site of initiation, of celestial observance, or as a ritualized bridge between the living and the dead? Beyond the mainstream interpretations, more speculative theories have emerged. Some researchers suggest that the barrow's sheer length and internal design reflect a sophisticated understanding of acoustics or resonance, perhaps used to enhance chanting or ceremonial sounds. Others point to its alignment and geometry, noting similarities with distant Neolithic sites across Europe, raising questions about shared knowledge, networks of builders, or cultural exchange far earlier than written records indicate. While these theories remain unproven, they invite us to consider the possibility that early societies engaged with space, sound, and symbolism in ways we are only beginning to comprehend. The landscape surrounding West Kennet adds another layer of intrigue. Positioned near Avebury's massive stone circles and aligned with distant earthworks, the barrow seems part of a broader prehistoric landscape, a network of monuments whose purpose, while partially understood, still eludes definitive explanation. Was West Kennet a focal point for pilgrimage, a marker of territorial identity, or a spiritual hub in a landscape carefully organized according to cosmological or seasonal principles? The interconnections between these sites hint at a sophistication in planning, coordination, and shared cultural vision that challenges conventional assumptions about Neolithic life. Walking through the barrow today, the visitor is struck by its quiet majesty. The low hum of wind through the sarsen stones, the soft echo of footsteps on ancient earth, and the filtered light entering the chambers combine to create a sense of timelessness. West Kennet Long Barrow is not merely a tomb, it is a bridge across millennia, a dialogue between the builders and those who stand within it today. The questions it raises are profound. What drove these communities to invest so much labor and ingenuity into such enduring monuments? How did they conceive of life, death, and the cosmos? And perhaps most tantalizingly, what aspects of their knowledge, belief, or technology remain hidden beneath the earth, waiting for us to uncover? As the sun sets over the Wiltshire hills, casting long shadows across the barrow and its chambers, West Kennet stands as a testament to human ambition, imagination, and mystery. Its stones endure, silent yet eloquent, inviting contemplation, study, and wonder. And in that silence, we are reminded that history is not always written in words. It is etched in stone, aligned with the heavens, and preserved in the spaces between the living and the dead. The answers may lie beneath our feet, just beyond reach, whispering across the centuries, waiting for those who are willing to listen. Flowing from the chalk hills and monumental tombs of southern England, our journey moves southward across the Pyrenees and the Iberian Peninsula to the rugged coastlines of Galicia, Spain. Here, perched atop a windswept promontory overlooking the Atlantic Ocean, stands the ancient hill fort of Castro de Santa Trega, a settlement that has commanded the landscape for thousands of years, offering a window into the lives of its inhabitants while presenting mysteries that continue to challenge our understanding of prehistory. From a distance, Santa Trega appears almost untouchable, a series of stone walls and terraces carved into the contours of the hill, blending seamlessly with the natural slopes and rocky outcrops. The settlement's silhouette is dominated by circular and oval stone dwellings, their walls partially preserved, their foundations hinting at structures that once housed families, livestock, and storage spaces. The site's elevated position provides panoramic views of the surrounding valleys, rivers, and coastline, a vantage point that would have offered both strategic defense and an intimate connection with the natural world. Archaeological studies date the primary occupation of Castro de Santa Trega to the Iron Age, roughly between the 5th and 1st centuries BCE. Yet the site's origins may reach further back, layered atop older, unrecorded foundations. Excavations reveal a community highly organized and remarkably skilled in stone construction, capable of creating circular homes, cobbled streets, and terraced defensive walls that follow the contours of the hill with precision. The craftsmanship is undeniable, yet it is the site's scale, integration with the landscape, and apparent social complexity that spark deeper questions. For centuries, the mainstream explanation has been practical. Santa Trega was a fortified settlement, a refuge against invaders and a center of local trade and agriculture. Its walls, sometimes over a meter thick, would have provided protection from both human and natural threats. The placement of dwellings in concentric layers, the careful planning of pathways and communal spaces, all suggest a community attuned to defense, organization, and daily survival. And yet, as with many prehistoric sites, practical explanations do not fully account for the care, labor, and knowledge required to create such a lasting monument in stone. Moving beyond functional interpretation, the settlement raises questions about the cultural and symbolic life of its inhabitants. Many of the circular dwellings contain traces of hearths, storage pits, and domestic artifacts, but they also appear deliberately arranged, sometimes aligned with nearby topographical features, rivers, or distant mountains. Some researchers suggest these placements may have held ritual significance, marking celestial events, ancestral lines, or the natural cycles of the land. Could the builders have been observing the sun, moon, or stars in ways that informed the layout of the settlement? And if so, what knowledge of astronomy or cosmology might they have possessed, knowledge that has left no written record? Adding to the intrigue are the artifacts and constructions found within and around the site. Stone carvings, simple figurines, and metal objects speak to daily life and spiritual practices alike. But the presence of unusually shaped stones, possible altars, and carefully constructed terraces suggests the intersection of the practical and the symbolic. Was Santa Trega merely a fortified village, or did it serve as a ceremonial hub, a place where the mundane and the sacred merged in stone and earth? Some researchers have gone further, exploring the idea that Castro de Santa Trega and other similar hill forts across Galicia and northern Iberia might represent an early form of urban planning, predating recognized cities. The concentric arrangement of dwellings, communal spaces, and defensive walls implies coordinated labor, shared knowledge, and long-term strategic thinking. How did communities coordinate construction on such a scale without written records or advanced tools? Was there a shared cultural blueprint passed across generations, or did these communities discover architectural principles independently, guided by experience, observation, and necessity. Fringe theories and speculative interpretations also emerge, though without definitive evidence. Some suggest that the prominence and orientation of the hill fort could relate to astronomical alignments, ritualized landscapes, or even early forms of symbolic mapping, an attempt to integrate human settlement with the cosmos. Others point to the similarity between the circular dwellings of Santa Trega and other prehistoric structures across Europe, hinting at possible cultural connections, shared symbolic language, or parallel architectural evolution. Whether by coincidence, communication, or convergent innovation, these similarities provoke reflection on the extent of knowledge, tradition, and exchange in prehistoric Europe. The natural setting of Castro de Santa Trega amplifies its aura of mystery. Rising above rivers that carve the valleys below and overlooking a coastline shaped by wind and tide, the site is both isolated and commanding. Its stones, weathered by centuries of Atlantic storms, are a testament to human effort and endurance, yet they also seem to resist complete understanding. Walking through the remnants of the circular homes, tracing the path of the terraces, and standing atop the highest walls, one is struck by the deliberate choices embedded in the landscape. Choices that speak to protection, community, ritual, and possibly knowledge now lost to time. Perhaps the greatest question is not how the hill fort was built, but why. Why did these communities invest such enormous effort into creating a settlement that balanced defense, habitation, and symbolic presence? What beliefs, fears, or aspirations motivated them to carve their lives so indelibly into stone and landscape? And what can this enduring site tell us about the intersection of human ingenuity, culture, and the environment in a time before written history, when knowledge was preserved not on parchment, but in stone, memory, and collective effort? As the Atlantic wind sweeps across the summit of Santa Trega, carrying the scent of salt and the murmur of distant waves, the hill fort stands as a silent witness to centuries of human endeavor. It is a monument to adaptation, organization, and vision, a structure that challenges our understanding of prehistoric communities. Its walls, terraces, and dwellings endure, raising questions that remain unanswered. In the quiet of this ancient site, we are reminded that history is often more than what survives in texts or artifacts. It is etched in stone, aligned with the land, and preserved in the spaces where human ambition meets mystery. And as we gaze across the Galician coast, the lingering question persists. What other secrets might these ancient stones conceal, waiting for those willing to trace the outlines of a forgotten past? Continuing our journey from the windswept coasts and ancient hill forts of Iberia, we now cross the Mediterranean Sea to the rugged island of Sardinia. Rising from the rolling hills and rocky plains of central Sardinia, the Nuraghe Su Nuraxi stands as one of the most enigmatic and enduring monuments of prehistoric Europe. Its massive stone towers, some reaching over 20 meters in height, dominate the surrounding landscape, casting long shadows across the countryside and evoking a sense of awe and timelessness that seems to transcend millennia. From a distance, Su Nuraxi appears as a complex of interlocking towers and walls, each built of carefully cut basalt stones, stacked without mortar yet remarkably stable. The central tower, or mastio, is surrounded by a labyrinth of smaller towers, walls, and courtyards, creating a fortress-like arrangement that speaks both of defense and organization. The sheer scale and precision of the construction immediately suggest a society with advanced knowledge of architecture, engineering, and collective planning. Walking among the ruins today, it is difficult not to imagine the builders of the 16th century BCE lifting heavy stones, shaping walls, and coordinating labor across generations to bring this vision to life. Archaeological studies date Su Nuraxi to the Bronze Age, between approximately 1600 and 1200 BCE, but some foundations may trace back even further, hinting at continuous occupation or multiple phases of construction. Excavations have revealed traces of domestic life, including pottery, tools, and hearths, alongside storage areas and defensive structures. The site's layout suggests a combination of functions: residential, ceremonial, and protective. Mainstream interpretations describe the Nuraghe as a fortified settlement, a communal stronghold against potential invaders, and a center of social cohesion. Yet these explanations, while plausible, do not fully capture the monument's scale, complexity, or the apparent sophistication of its builders. The architecture of Su Nuraxi itself raises intriguing questions. The central tower, surrounded by concentric walls and smaller towers, demonstrates an understanding of load distribution, structural stability, and spatial organization that is remarkable for a pre-literate society. The alignment of certain passages and towers has led some researchers to speculate about astronomical significance, with the positioning of entrances or sight lines possibly marking solstices, lunar cycles, or other celestial events. Could these structures have served as both practical fortifications and symbolic markers, linking the people of Sardinia to the cycles of the sun and moon? Or were these alignments coincidental, a byproduct of landscape constraints rather than deliberate design? Inside the central tower, the stone chambers reveal a level of craftsmanship that invites reflection. Circular rooms, staircases carved from solid rock, and carefully fitted stones suggest meticulous planning and a shared architectural knowledge passed through generations. The distribution of spaces, residential, storage, and possibly ritual, hints at a society with defined social roles and a deep sense of communal organization. How much knowledge of geometry, engineering, or construction techniques did these communities possess? And how did they achieve such precision without written plans, formal measurement systems, or modern tools? Beyond mainstream archaeology, more speculative interpretations emerge. Some researchers suggest that the Nuraghe, including Su Nuraxi, may encode astronomical, mathematical, or even symbolic knowledge, acting as observatories, ritual centers, or repositories of cultural memory. Others note the similarity of circular tower structures across the Mediterranean and parts of Europe, raising questions about possible cultural exchange, diffusion of architectural ideas, or convergent evolution in prehistoric societies. While these theories remain unproven, they invite us to reconsider the capacities of Bronze Age communities and the depth of knowledge they may have possessed. The location of Su Nuraxi adds another layer to its mystery. Perched on gently rolling terrain with panoramic views of surrounding valleys and distant hills, it occupies a position that is both strategic and symbolic. The ability to survey the landscape would have provided advantages in defense, trade, and communication. Yet the siting also evokes a sense of intentionality, as if the Nuraghe were designed to assert presence, power, or even spiritual significance across the region. Could it have functioned as a cultural focal point, a center of ritual or administration, linking people across the island through shared identity and ceremony? Walking among the ruins today, one senses the careful thought embedded in the stone. Each tower, wall, and chamber reflects decisions made by hands now long gone, decisions that shaped space, guided movement, and expressed communal priorities. The monument is more than stone and mortar. It is a dialogue across centuries, a record of ambition, ingenuity, and human effort. Yet the purpose behind many of its choices, the precise layout, the interlocking towers, the monumental scale, remains open to interpretation. Perhaps the most compelling mystery of Su Nuraxi lies in its endurance. For more than 3 millennia, it has withstood wind, rain, human activity, and the slow erosion of time. It is a testament to the ingenuity and determination of a people whose written records, if they ever existed, have long vanished. And in that silence, questions persist. How did these communities achieve such architectural mastery? What knowledge guided their hands? Were the towers merely defensive, or did they carry layers of meaning we can only glimpse today? As the Sardinian sun dips low, casting golden light across the basalt towers of Su Nuraxi, the site exudes a quiet majesty. It is at once familiar and unfathomable, a human creation that challenges assumptions about the past while inviting contemplation of what might still lie hidden, knowledge, stories, or technologies yet lost to time. And as we stand among the ruins, tracing the contours of walls, stepping into darkened chambers, and gazing across the surrounding landscape, we are left with a lingering, profound question. What secrets did the builders of Su Nuraxi intend to preserve, and how much of that knowledge remains waiting patiently beneath the stones? Continuing from the towering stone fortresses of Sardinia, where the Nuraghe Su Nuraxi rises as a testament to Bronze Age ingenuity, we now turn northward across the sea to the windswept hills of Pembrokeshire, Wales. Here, atop a gently sloping ridge that overlooks rolling pastures and distant woodlands, stands Pentre Ifan, a megalithic monument whose simplicity belies a profound mystery. Its massive capstone, delicately balanced atop slender uprights, has endured for more than 5,500 years, silently commanding the landscape and inviting contemplation of the people who first erected it. At first sight, Pentre Ifan is striking in its elegance. A single, enormous stone, estimated to weigh over 16 tons, rests in a near-perfect horizontal plane, supported at either end by upright megaliths. Beneath the capstone, a carefully constructed dolmen chamber hints at the tomb's original purpose, a burial site for a community navigating life, death, and the natural world during the late Neolithic, around 3,500 BCE. The monument sits within a partially buried mound, now eroded, giving the appearance that the capstone floats above the landscape, a precarious balance that seems almost impossible for a society without cranes, levers, or written plans. Archaeological investigations have uncovered fragments of human remains, flint tools, and pottery within and near the site, confirming its role as a funerary monument. Yet these practical discoveries raise as many questions as they answer. How did the builders lift a stone of such weight with apparent precision, achieving stability without modern engineering techniques? What motivated them to invest so much labor in a structure that would endure millennia, long after the lives it initially commemorated had faded from memory? The architecture of Pentre Ifan, though deceptively simple, speaks to careful design and spatial awareness. The alignment of the dolmen appears to interact with the rising and setting sun, suggesting that the builders may have integrated astronomical observation into its construction. Could these early people have understood solstices or seasonal cycles, encoding such knowledge into their monuments? Or was the placement determined more by topography, ritual tradition, or the symbolic significance of the hill itself? The truth is uncertain, leaving room for both scientific inquiry and quiet wonder. Beyond the mainstream explanations of burial and seasonal alignment, Pentre Ifan invites broader speculation. Some researchers have proposed that such dolmens served as focal points for community rituals, marking territorial claims, ancestral veneration, or even cosmological concepts we no longer fully comprehend. The precise balance of the capstone may have had symbolic meaning, representing equilibrium between life and death, heaven and earth, or the visible and invisible realms. Could this interplay of form and function have been intended to inspire reflection, awe, or reverence among those who approached the site? The monument's construction also suggests a sophisticated understanding of leverage, weight distribution, and collective labor. Moving the capstone into position would have required ingenuity, coordination, and possibly techniques lost to time. Were ropes and wooden frameworks employed, or did the builders discover methods of sliding and levering massive stones that we have yet to fully reconstruct? And if similar methods were used at other dolmens across Wales and Europe, might this indicate the existence of shared knowledge networks, a prehistoric culture of architectural problem-solving that left few traces beyond stone? The landscape surrounding Pentre Ifan adds another dimension to its mystery. The dolmen is part of a broader network of prehistoric monuments scattered across Pembrokeshire, including standing stones, smaller burial mounds, and ceremonial enclosures. The proximity of these sites suggests that Pentre Ifan was not an isolated construction, but a component of a complex cultural landscape, carefully organized according to social, spiritual, or environmental principles. Why did these communities choose this particular ridge? Was the site selected for visibility, ritual significance, access to resources, or some combination of factors now obscured by time? Walking beneath the massive capstone today, one is struck by the monument's quiet power. The space beneath the stone, though narrow, invites introspection. The weight of history presses down, yet the monument appears almost ethereal, suspended above the landscape. Its endurance challenges assumptions about the capabilities of Neolithic communities and the scope of their ambition. Could Pentre Ifan, like other megalithic sites, represent a bridge between the practical and the spiritual, a place where early humans expressed identity, memory, and cosmological understanding in stone? Speculative theories extend further. Some researchers consider acoustic or sound-related purposes, suggesting that the shape and orientation of dolmens may have influenced the resonance of voices, chants, or rituals performed within or around them. Others note the striking similarities between dolmens across Western Europe, from Ireland to Brittany, hinting at shared architectural knowledge, symbolic language, or even networks of migration and cultural exchange. While evidence for such ideas is circumstantial, it underscores a profound point. The prehistoric world may have been far more interconnected, observant, and symbolically sophisticated than we typically assume. As daylight fades across the Pembrokeshire hills, shadows stretch beneath the capstone of Pentre Ifan, accentuating its precarious balance and quiet majesty. The dolmen stands as both tomb and monument, functional yet symbolic, enduring yet enigmatic. Its presence invites reflection on human ingenuity, mortality, and the desire to leave a mark on the world that transcends individual lifetimes. And in that silence, a question persists. What knowledge, beliefs, or traditions guided the hands of those who erected this stone? What aspects of their understanding, their culture, or their technology remain hidden, waiting to be uncovered beneath the earth, in the shadow of a capstone that has stood watch over the landscape for more than 5 millennia? Pentre Ifan, with its delicate balance, imposing simplicity and subtle elegance, reminds us that the past is not always visible in its entirety. It challenges us to read between the lines of stone and landscape, to consider what human societies before written history were capable of imagining, creating, and preserving. And as we stand beneath its enduring presence, we are left to wonder how much of that ingenuity has been lost and how much still whispers through the ancient hills waiting for us to listen. Flowing from the serene hills of Pembrokeshire and the monumental dolmen of Pentre Ifan, our journey turns northward into the rugged landscapes of northeastern Scotland. Here, near the city of Inverness, lies the ancient complex of Clava Cairns, a cluster of Bronze Age burial cairns and stone circles whose quiet presence has endured for more than 4,000 years. Perched among rolling moorlands, these monuments exude a sense of timelessness, their carefully placed stones weathered by centuries of wind and rain, yet still commanding the landscape with a quiet, mysterious authority. Approaching Clava Cairns, the first impression is one of deliberate design and harmonious integration with the surrounding terrain. The cairns themselves are circular mounds, constructed from carefully chosen stones, often surrounded by rings of standing stones that vary in height and spacing. At the center of some cairns lie recessed burial chambers, accessible via narrow passages that hint at ritual and ceremony. The largest cairns feature corbelled chambers, an architectural technique that distributes weight evenly across massive stones, creating interior spaces that have survived millennia. The effect is simultaneously imposing and intimate. The monuments are grand in scale, yet invite the observer to step closer, to walk among the stones, and to imagine the people who built them. Archaeological investigations date the Clava complex to around 2500 BCE, during the late Neolithic to early Bronze Age, a period of remarkable cultural and technological development in Scotland. Excavations have revealed cremated remains within cists, accompanied by pottery, flint tools, and occasional decorative items. These findings confirm the site's primary function as funerary monuments. Yet, the precision of their construction, the careful alignment of stones, and the integration with the surrounding landscape suggest purposes that extend beyond mere interment. How did these communities organize labor to build such enduring structures? What inspired them to create monuments that would remain visible for thousands of years? One of the most striking aspects of Clava Cairns is their alignment. Many of the cairns are oriented to capture light at specific times of the year, particularly the winter solstice. On the shortest day, sunlight penetrates passages or illuminates standing stones in ways that appear intentional, bathing the monuments in a fleeting, golden glow. Could this have been a form of calendrical observation, allowing prehistoric communities to track the seasons, agricultural cycles, or celestial events? Or did the alignment serve a more symbolic purpose, linking the living to the dead, the earth to the heavens, in a ritual experience now lost to time? Beyond these practical and symbolic considerations, the Clava Cairns present an architectural sophistication that continues to intrigue researchers. The concentric stone circles surrounding the cairns are often composed of two rings, a larger outer ring of taller stones and a smaller inner ring of shorter stones. The arrangement is deliberate, suggesting an understanding of proportion, perspective, and spatial relationships that resonates with human perception. Some have speculated that the layout may have served ritualistic, ceremonial, or even astronomical functions, though the evidence remains circumstantial. How much of this design was practical, how much symbolic, and how much intentionally hidden from casual observation? The landscape itself amplifies the mystery. Set amid rolling moors, small streams, and distant hills, Clava Cairns occupies a space that is at once remote and commanding. The monuments are visible from certain vantage points, yet tucked away enough to feel secretive, as if intended to be discovered only by those who knew the paths, the seasons, or the rituals. This interplay of visibility and concealment suggests careful planning, a deliberate choice to merge the natural and constructed worlds. Could the cairns have served as landmarks, guiding travelers or delineating territories while simultaneously functioning as spiritual or ritual centers? Speculative interpretations extend further. Some researchers suggest that Clava Cairns may encode knowledge of the cosmos or human mortality, transforming the landscape into a symbolic map of life, death, and time. Others note similarities between Clava and other megalithic complexes across Europe, hinting at shared traditions or cultural exchange in the prehistoric world. The careful corbelling of chambers, the precise alignment with solar events, and the repeated circular motifs all point to a society capable of remarkable engineering, astronomical observation, and symbolic expression, yet one without written records to explain their intent. Walking among the stones today, one feels the intersection of human ingenuity and mystery. The cairns are silent, yet their presence communicates something profound, a connection to ancestors, to cycles of life and death, and to forces larger than any single generation. Their enduring stability challenges assumptions about Bronze Age societies, inviting reflection on what knowledge, skill, and cultural sophistication existed thousands of years before written history. Perhaps the most compelling question of Clava Cairns is not how they were built, but why. Why invest such labor, skill, and vision in monuments that were intended to endure for millennia? What beliefs or social structures guided their construction, and what has been lost to time? Knowledge of rituals, cosmology, or technological methods that allowed these stones to stand so precisely, so steadfastly after thousands of years. As the Scottish sun dips low across the moorlands, casting long shadows through the concentric circles and corbelled chambers, Clava Cairns exudes a quiet majesty. It is at once practical, ceremonial, and enigmatic, a place where architecture, astronomy, and human imagination converge. The stones themselves, weathered yet enduring, offer no definitive answers, only the persistent invitation to wonder. And in that stillness, a question lingers. What secrets remain hidden beneath the earth, behind the stones, or embedded in the alignments, waiting for those willing to trace the paths of a world long vanished, yet still speaking through stone? Flowing from the moorlands and solar-aligned cairns of northeastern Scotland, our journey moves southward once more, crossing the Channel to the gentle rolling hills of Brittany, France. Here, amid fields and pastures that seem ordinary at first glance, stands one of Europe's most remarkable and enigmatic megaliths, the Dolmen de la Roche-aux-Fées. Its presence is unmistakable, a monumental stone structure that has endured for over 5,000 years, quietly asserting itself upon the landscape, as if holding secrets beyond both time and memory. At first sight, the dolmen is awe-inspiring in its simplicity and scale. A long, narrow passage is formed by massive vertical stones, topped with enormous horizontal capstones, some weighing more than 20 tons. The passage extends for over 20 meters, making it one of the largest of its kind in Europe. Covered originally by an earthen mound, now partially eroded, the dolmen presents a striking visual, a corridor of stone that seems almost alive, as though frozen in the act of reaching toward the sky. Walking alongside it, one cannot help but feel the deliberate care and labor invested in every placement, every alignment. Archaeologists date the construction of Roche-aux-Fées to the late Neolithic, around 3,300 to 2,900 BCE, a period when communities across Western Europe were experimenting with monumental architecture and complex ritual spaces. Excavations have revealed traces of human remains, pottery shards, and flint tools, confirming its use as a funerary monument. Yet, even within this practical explanation, questions arise. How were such massive stones quarried, transported, and lifted into place with only the most rudimentary tools available at the time? And why invest so much effort in a structure that, while monumental, served a function that could have been accomplished with far simpler means? The architecture of Roche-aux-Fées invites deeper reflection. The passage is remarkably straight, with vertical supports carefully spaced and topped by capstones that create a continuous roof. Some researchers have noted the possibility of astronomical alignment, suggesting that the passage may have been oriented to capture sunlight at specific times of the year, perhaps during solstices or equinoxes. Could this alignment have guided ritual activity, marking seasonal cycles, agricultural events, or ceremonial observances? Or does the orientation hold a symbolic significance, designed to link the living with ancestors or celestial forces? The answers are uncertain, leaving space for both scientific inquiry and contemplative wonder. Beyond the mainstream interpretations of burial and seasonal alignment, the dolmen hints at layers of cultural sophistication. Its scale and precision suggest coordinated labor, shared knowledge of construction techniques, and long-term planning. The placement of stones, the careful construction of the passage, and the integration of the dolmen into the landscape imply a community deeply attuned to both their environment and the needs of their society. Were these early builders motivated purely by practical or ritual concerns? Or was there also a desire to leave a lasting testament, a physical marker of identity and collective memory? The surrounding landscape adds another layer to the mystery. Roche-aux-Fées is part of a network of megalithic monuments scattered across Brittany, including alignments, menhirs, and smaller dolmens. The proximity of these structures suggests a shared cultural framework, possibly reflecting social, spiritual, or territorial organization. Could the dolmen have functioned as a focal point in a larger ritual landscape where the movement of people, objects, and ceremonies was carefully orchestrated? And if so, what knowledge guided the siting, orientation, and construction of such monuments across the region? Speculative interpretations extend further. Some researchers propose that the sheer weight and balance of the capstones indicate a sophisticated understanding of physics and leverage, knowledge perhaps passed down through generations. Others suggest that dolmens such as Roche-aux-Fées may have served as spaces for communal rites, sound manipulation, or even symbolic journeys from life to death. Comparisons with other monumental sites across Europe hint at possible networks of architectural knowledge, cultural exchange, or parallel innovation, suggesting that Neolithic communities may have shared principles and techniques far earlier than previously assumed. Walking along the passage today, one is struck by the sense of deliberate intention embedded in the stones. The vertical supports rise like guardians, holding aloft massive capstones that have stood for millennia. Entering the chamber beneath the stones evokes both intimacy and awe, a narrow space designed to accommodate the living, the dead, and the imagination simultaneously. Here, in the quiet of ancient stone, the monument communicates without words, asking us to consider the intersection of human labor, belief, and ingenuity. Perhaps the most profound mystery of Roche-aux-Fées lies not in how it was built, but in why. Why dedicate such enormous effort to a single structure? What beliefs, traditions, or social imperatives guided the hands that quarried, moved, and erected these stones? And what aspects of Neolithic life, knowledge, ritual, cosmology, have been lost, leaving us to puzzle over their intent through fragments, shadows, and enduring stone? As the sun dips low over Brittany's fields, casting long shadows along the corridor of Roche-aux-Fées, the dolmen exudes a quiet majesty. Its stones, weathered by millennia, stand as both witness and participant in a landscape shaped by human hands. They invite reflection, contemplation, and wonder, suggesting that prehistoric societies were capable not only of monumental construction, but of thought, ritual, and symbolic expression far more complex than their written absence might imply. And as we step back, tracing the passage with our eyes, we are left with an enduring question. What secrets remain hidden within the stones, beneath the earthen mound, or encoded in the very alignments of this ancient corridor, waiting for those willing to listen to a language older than history itself? Flowing from the vast dolmen of Roche-aux-Fées in Brittany, where massive stones have endured the weight of millennia, our journey now turns once more to the misted hills of Ireland, to the ancient complex of Loughcrew Cairns in County Meath. Perched high on the slopes of Carnbane East, these Neolithic tombs are not just burial sites. They are monuments of light, shadow, and human ingenuity, quietly perched where the land meets the sky, inviting both awe and contemplation. Approaching Loughcrew, the cairns first appear as modest mounds scattered across the hilltop, blending with the natural rise of the land. But closer inspection reveals their true significance. Inside each mound lies a stone passage leading to a corbelled chamber, its walls covered with intricate carvings of spirals, lozenges, chevrons, and other abstract motifs. These carvings are not mere decoration. They are a deliberate, enduring language of form, created by people more than 5,000 years ago, whose meaning has been largely lost to history. The stones themselves, carefully selected and precisely placed, hint at a deep understanding of construction, symbolism, and the forces of nature. Archaeologists date the Loughcrew Cairns to around 3,200 BCE, placing them within Ireland's late Neolithic period. Excavations have uncovered human remains, flint tools, and pottery, confirming their use as funerary monuments. Yet, while these finds offer insight into daily and ritual life, they cannot fully explain the extraordinary alignment and artistry of the cairns. Unlike simpler burial mounds, Loughcrew is designed to interact with the sun itself. On the mornings surrounding the winter solstice, sunlight penetrates the narrow passages and illuminates the inner carvings in a dramatic display, highlighting spiral motifs with an almost theatrical precision. How did communities so long ago achieve this exacting orientation? And what knowledge of astronomy guided their hands? The artistry inside the chambers is both mesmerizing and enigmatic. The carvings suggest a sophisticated symbolic or ritual language, though no written records survive to explain their intent. Spirals and concentric motifs dominate, leading some scholars to suggest cosmological meaning, representations of the cycles of life and death, the sun's journey across the sky, or even the movement of the stars. Yet, despite extensive study, the carvings remain stubbornly ambiguous. Were they purely symbolic, purely decorative, or did they serve a functional purpose in ritual, observation, or teaching? The certainty of their builder's intent is lost, leaving modern observers to speculate in silence. The construction itself presents another layer of intrigue. The corbelled chambers are created with remarkable skill, each stone carefully interlocked to distribute weight evenly, forming a roof capable of withstanding thousands of years of erosion. Transporting and lifting these stones, positioning them with such precision, required not only physical labor but an understanding of geometry, balance, and perhaps collective knowledge passed down through generations. Could this indicate that Neolithic societies possessed engineering knowledge far more advanced than we traditionally credit them with? And if so, how was this knowledge transmitted across time and space in a pre-literate world? Beyond mainstream interpretations, Loughcrew also invites more speculative reflection. Some researchers propose that the winter solstice illumination suggests a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles and their significance to agricultural, spiritual, or social life. Others point to similarities with megalithic art found in Brittany, Britain, and beyond, hinting at shared cultural motifs, symbolic languages, or networks of knowledge across Neolithic Europe. While concrete evidence of these connections is limited, the parallels raise compelling questions about the extent and reach of prehistoric culture. The hilltop setting itself enhances the mystery. From the cairns, one can see sweeping views of the surrounding valleys, rivers, and distant hills. The location seems intentionally chosen, both commanding and secluded, a place that bridges the earth and the sky, the practical and the spiritual. Were the builders guided by a desire for visibility, ritual significance, or alignment with cosmic events? Or was the selection of this particular ridge part of a broader landscape carefully mapped and understood in ways we are only beginning to glimpse? Walking inside the chamber today, beneath its corbelled roof, the sense of continuity across millennia is palpable. The spirals, etched into stone, catch the shifting light, creating subtle shadows that seem almost alive, as if the monument itself is breathing history into the observer. The space feels both intimate and monumental, a place designed to connect the living with ancestors, the terrestrial with the celestial. It is architecture as experience, guiding the observer through space, light, and symbolism in a manner as precise as it is mysterious. Perhaps the most profound question of Loughcrew Cairns is not how they were built, but why. Why dedicate such meticulous effort to structures that would endure long after the builders themselves were gone? What beliefs, Social structures or cosmological understanding motivated these early communities to create a space that integrates art, astronomy, and burial with such deliberate intention. And what has been lost? Rituals, oral traditions, or methods of observation that might illuminate the full purpose of these remarkable sites. As the sun rises over the Cairnbane Ridge, its light streaming through the passage and illuminating the spirals carved into stone millennia ago, the cairns stand as both witness and guide, silently connecting the present to a past we can only partially understand. They are enduring monuments to human ambition, imagination, and the desire to leave a mark upon the world that transcends individual lifetimes. And in their silence, one question remains, echoing across the misted hills. What other knowledge, hidden in stone and shadow, waits for us to see it, if only we look carefully enough and listen with patience to the whispers of a world long vanished? Flowing from the sunlit chambers and spiral carvings of Loughcrew, our journey now moves to the remote and windswept archipelago of Orkney, off the northern coast of Scotland. Here, amidst rolling grasslands and the ever-present sea breeze, stands Maeshowe, one of the most extraordinary and enigmatic tombs of the Neolithic world. Its earth-covered mound, modest in appearance from the outside, conceals an interior of astonishing sophistication, where stone, light, and celestial timing converge in a silent dialogue that has endured for over 5,000 years. From a distance, Maeshowe presents as a gently sloping mound, blending seamlessly into the surrounding landscape. The mound, some 115 feet in diameter and over 20 feet high, shelters a complex system of passageways and chambers built with carefully cut slabs of local stone. The entrance, a low corridor of massive stones, invites entry with an understated grace, leading into a corbelled chamber of remarkable precision. Stepping inside, one is immediately aware of the monument's intentionality. Every stone placed with purpose, every alignment considered, creating a space that is both functional and profoundly symbolic. Archaeologists date Maeshowe to around 2800 BCE, within the late Neolithic period, a time when communities across Orkney were constructing monumental sites such as Skorba Temples, the Ring of Brodgar, and the Standing Stones of Stennis. Excavations within Maeshowe have revealed evidence of cremated human remains, pottery fragments, and carved stone decoration. Yet these practical findings only hint at the broader significance of the monument. Maeshowe is not merely a tomb. It is an architectural marvel, designed with an understanding of structural engineering, astronomical alignment, and the interplay of space and light. Perhaps the most remarkable feature of Maeshowe is its winter solstice alignment. On the shortest days of the year, sunlight penetrates the entrance passage and illuminates the rear wall of the central chamber with startling precision. This effect, achieved without metal tools, written plans, or formal measurement systems, suggests a deep understanding of solar movement. What knowledge of the heavens guided these builders, and to what purpose was it applied? Did the illumination mark the rebirth of the sun, symbolize renewal, or facilitate ritual observances tied to life, death, and the cycles of nature? Inside the central chamber, the craftsmanship is both meticulous and enduring. Corbelled stones interlock to create a stable roof. The passage walls are carefully leveled, and small niches and recesses hint at the ceremonial use of space. What is immediately striking is the precision. The builders achieved structural stability, astronomical alignment, and symbolic resonance all at once. Could it be that Maeshowe functioned as both tomb and temple, a place where the living communed with the dead, the sun, and the cosmos in a manner now lost to memory? Adding to its mystery are the intricate carvings discovered within the chamber. Though many were made later by Viking visitors in the 12th century CE, The presence of these later marks underscores the monument's enduring significance and aura of mystery. The original builders may also have inscribed symbols, abstract motifs, spirals, or celestial references that have faded with time. What messages or intentions might these carvings have carried? Were they purely decorative, or did they serve as guides for ritual, memory, or instruction, linking human experience to cosmic patterns? Beyond the mainstream archaeological interpretations, Maeshowe invites speculation about the knowledge and capabilities of Neolithic societies. The transport and placement of massive stones, precise architectural construction, and alignment with the winter solstice suggest not only skill, but also sophisticated observation, planning, and possibly shared knowledge networks across Orkney or even wider regions of prehistoric Europe. Could similar principles have guided the construction of other megalithic sites, hinting at a lost technological or astronomical understanding that modern scholarship only glimpses through stone and shadow? The location of Maeshowe itself amplifies the monument's enigmatic character. Perched upon Orkney's gently rolling landscape, the tomb commands views of the surrounding hills, lochs, and distant coastline. The site's visibility would have been both practical and symbolic, marking territory, serving as a ritual focal point, and connecting the monument with the cycles of nature and celestial observation. How much of the placement was dictated by terrain? How much by social or spiritual intention? And what rituals unfolded here over generations, beneath the roof of carefully placed stone? Walking through the passage today, one cannot help but sense the interplay between human effort and cosmic awareness. The space is intimate, yet monumental. The stones themselves are silent, yet resonant with the echoes of countless generations. Each step through the corridor invites reflection on the sophistication of a society that could observe, measure, and integrate natural cycles into enduring stone architecture without recourse to written language. Perhaps the most compelling question of Maeshowe lies not in the mechanics of its construction, but in the meaning behind it. What compelled its builders to dedicate decades of labor to a tomb that transcends mere burial? What spiritual, social, or cosmological vision guided their hands? And what knowledge of astronomy, geometry, or ritual practice has been lost, leaving us to wonder at the monument's full purpose? As the low winter sun illuminates the central chamber and the shadows stretch along the corbelled walls, Maeshowe stands as both witness and enigma. It is a monument to human ambition, observation, and imagination, silently connecting the past to the present. Its stones, weathered but enduring, invite contemplation, suggesting that even in prehistory, humans were capable of profound sophistication in both thought and construction. And in that stillness, a question persists, echoing through the chamber and across millennia. What other knowledge, hidden in alignment, stone and shadow, awaits discovery, patiently preserved in a world before written history? Flowing from the windswept archipelago of Orkney, where Maeshowe stands as a masterwork of Neolithic engineering and astronomical insight, our journey returns once more to the European continent, to the rugged coastline of Brittany, France. Here, rising above the gentle hills near the English Channel, lies the Cairn of Barnenez, one of the oldest monumental tombs in Europe, an extraordinary testament to human ambition and ingenuity over 6,000 years ago. At first glance, it may appear as a simple mound of earth and stone, but closer inspection reveals a labyrinth of chambers, passageways, and carefully placed megaliths, each stone echoing a story long silent yet vividly present. From a distance, the Cairn of Barnenez presents as a broad, low mound, stretching nearly 70 meters in length and over 25 meters wide, its irregular silhouette blending with the surrounding landscape. The exterior is composed of enormous slabs, carefully stacked to form a solid structure, some weighing several tons. Weathered by millennia of Atlantic wind and rain, The mound nevertheless retains a commanding presence, hinting at the deliberate thought and immense labor invested by the Neolithic communities who constructed it. Walking toward it, one senses not only the scale of human effort, but also an intentional integration with the land itself, the mound rising as a natural extension of the coastal terrain. Inside, the complexity of Barnenez becomes apparent. The cairn contains at least 11 stone-built chambers, each accessed by narrow passages that weave through the mound like arteries of memory and ritual. The walls are constructed with corbelled slabs, creating stable, enclosed spaces capable of enduring for thousands of years. Excavations have revealed the remains of human burials, along with pottery fragments, flint tools, and decorative objects, confirming its role as a funerary monument. Yet, for all its practical function, the scale, sophistication, and precision of Barnenez suggest a purpose that extends beyond the mere interment of the dead. The architecture itself is striking in its design. The chambers vary in size and orientation, yet collectively form a coherent complex, demonstrating an understanding of spatial organization, weight distribution, and long-term durability. How did communities in the late Neolithic, without written records or advanced machinery, coordinate such monumental construction? How did they move massive stones, some weighing over 10 tons, with only ropes, wooden rollers, and human ingenuity? And why dedicate decades of labor to a monument designed to endure for millennia? The alignment and placement of Barnenez also invite contemplation. Some researchers suggest that the entrances and passages may relate to solar or lunar cycles, marking specific seasonal events that guided ritual activity, agricultural planning, or cosmological observance. The possibility that Neolithic communities could integrate celestial awareness into architectural design challenges conventional assumptions about prehistoric knowledge. Was the monument intended to be a calendar, a sacred space, or both simultaneously? And if so, what insights into time, life, and death were encoded in stone for those who approached the cairn in antiquity? Beyond practical explanations, Barnenez also provokes more speculative thought. The sheer scale of the mound and the precision of its construction suggest not only engineering skill but also social organization and shared cultural vision. Perhaps it functioned as a focal point for regional gatherings, ritual ceremonies, or ancestral veneration. Could it also have served as a repository of knowledge, a symbol of communal identity, or even an early expression of a philosophical or cosmological worldview? The monument's enduring presence implies that it was far more than a tomb. It was a statement of human intention reaching across generations. The surrounding landscape further enhances the mystery. Situated on a gentle rise overlooking valleys and coastal plains, Barnenez would have been visible from great distances, asserting presence and authority. Its location may have been chosen for practical purposes, spiritual resonance, or both. Was it a marker of territorial boundaries, a site of pilgrimage, or a sacred threshold between the living and the dead? And what role did the surrounding environment, sunlight, wind, water, and terrain, play in shaping the experience of those who built and visited the cairn? Walking through Barnenez today, the visitor is struck by the interplay of scale and intimacy. The chambers are enclosed yet inviting, the massive stones close enough to touch, the passages narrow yet purposeful. The cairn communicates silently, a dialogue between labor, belief, and the enduring landscape. The carvings, worn by centuries of exposure, hint at symbolic or ritual intent, though their exact meaning is lost. Spirals, cup marks, and geometric motifs may reflect cosmology, ancestral veneration, or an abstract symbolic language now incomprehensible to modern eyes. Perhaps the most profound question Barnenez poses is not how it was built, but why. Why invest such extraordinary effort, time and knowledge into a monument so enduring in an era before written history? What beliefs, social structures, or spiritual imperatives inspired these early builders? And what knowledge, astronomical, architectural, symbolic, has been lost, leaving only the silent stones as witnesses to human ambition, memory, and imagination? As the Atlantic wind sweeps across the mound, rustling grass along the top of Barnenez, the cairn exudes a quiet, commanding presence. It is at once a tomb, a monument, and a work of art, integrating earth, stone, and possibly the sky itself into a cohesive whole. Its endurance challenges assumptions about prehistoric capability, while its mystery invites reflection on human aspiration and creativity. And in the stillness of this ancient landscape, one question lingers. What secrets, hidden within the chambers, the stone alignments, or the mound itself, remain waiting to be discovered by those patient enough to read the language of a world long vanished yet still speaking across the millennia? Flowing from the monumental cairns of Brittany, where human ambition shaped earth and stone into enduring monuments, our journey now carries us south across the Mediterranean to the island of Malta, where the Skorba Temples stand as silent witnesses to an extraordinary prehistoric civilization. Perched on a gentle rise overlooking fields that have been tilled for centuries, the Skorba complex is more than a collection of stones. It is a testament to human ingenuity, ritual sophistication, and the enduring mystery of societies that thrived long before written history. At first glance, the ruins of Skorba appear modest, but closer inspection reveals an intricacy of design that speaks to advanced planning and profound cultural intent. The complex comprises two main temple structures, built in the distinctive Maltese megalithic style. Curved apses arranged in an axial layout, massive limestone blocks carefully fitted without mortar, and narrow passages that guide movement through ceremonial spaces. The stones themselves, though weathered by millennia of Mediterranean sun and wind, are precise and deliberate, each carefully placed to create stability, rhythm, and harmony within the complex. Walking among them, one senses a combination of purpose and reverence that transcends the simple function of stone walls. Archaeological study dates Skorba to the early Neolithic, around 4000 BCE, making it part of Malta's remarkable temple-building culture, which predates the Egyptian pyramids by several centuries. Excavations have revealed human burials, pottery, figurines, and ritual objects, confirming the site's ceremonial significance. Yet the purpose and construction of Skorba remain enigmatic. How did communities without metal tools, wheeled transport, or written instruction coordinate the labor, quarrying, and precise placement of these massive stones? What cultural or spiritual imperatives drove them to build structures of such enduring complexity? The architecture of Skorba is as deliberate as it is mysterious. The curved apses suggest an understanding of flow, movement, and spatial organization that guides participants through the temple in a sequence of experiences, perhaps ritual, perhaps symbolic, perhaps both. The orientation of the temples, some scholars suggest, aligns with solar and lunar cycles, hinting at a sophisticated awareness of celestial events and their significance to agricultural or ceremonial life. Could the builders have observed the sun, moon, or stars with such precision that their knowledge became encoded in stone? Or was the alignment incidental, a byproduct of local topography and practical constraints? The ambiguity is part of the site's allure. Beyond the practical and ceremonial, Skorba raises profound questions about the society that built it. The effort required to quarry, transport, and position enormous limestone blocks implies not only technical skill but social organization. A coordinated labor force, collective planning, and generational knowledge would have been essential to construct even a single temple, let alone an entire complex. Were these temples a reflection of communal power, spiritual authority, or shared cultural identity? And what knowledge, ritual, astronomical, or architectural, was preserved in the stones themselves? The interior of the temples adds further layers of mystery. Narrow corridors lead to small chambers and recesses, some of which may have served as altars or storage for ritual objects. The spatial arrangement suggests that the builders understood more than construction. They understood experience. The temples are designed to guide perception, to create moments of intimacy and awe, to control light, shadow, and movement in ways that resonate with both human and cosmic rhythms. Could these spaces have functioned as observatories, ceremonial centers, or repositories of knowledge? The evidence is fragmentary, leaving interpretation open yet compelling. Speculative interpretations extend even further. Some scholars propose that the Skorba Temples, like other Maltese megaliths, may encode knowledge of astronomy, mathematics, or cosmology, serving as ritualized maps of the heavens. Others note the continuity of architectural motifs across the islands, suggesting cultural cohesion, symbolic language, or shared tradition that endured over centuries. If so, what does this tell us about the transmission of knowledge in a pre-literate society? How sophisticated were these communities, and what has been lost to time that might illuminate their understanding of the world? The surrounding landscape reinforces the monumentality of Skorba. Set amidst fields and low hills, the site occupies a prominent position, visible from a distance yet intimate upon approach. Its placement may have been practical for visibility or defense, but it also evokes symbolic meaning, a threshold between human habitation, ritual activity, and the natural world. How much of its significance derived from location, and how much from design and ceremonial intent? Did the builders view Skorba as a focal point of social cohesion, spiritual connection, or cosmic alignment? Walking through the temple corridors today, one senses the interplay between human effort, ritual experience, and the natural environment. The stones, smooth yet massive, seem to communicate both permanence and mystery, bridging the tangible and intangible. Each apse, each passage, each carved recess is a trace of intention, a gesture toward understanding, a fragment of a world view encoded in stone. And yet, the full meaning remains elusive, a puzzle suspended across millennia. Perhaps the most compelling question of Skorba is not how it was built, but why? Why dedicate such effort, resources, and skill to structures whose significance transcends practical function? What beliefs, social structures, or cosmic understandings motivated these communities to construct temples that endure as silent witnesses to a vanished world? And what knowledge, astronomical, architectural, ritual, remains hidden, waiting to be rediscovered beneath the limestone and earth? As the Mediterranean sun dips low across the fields, casting long shadows through the temple corridors and highlighting the textures of stone carved millennia ago, Skorba exudes a quiet, enigmatic majesty. It is at once a functional space, a ceremonial monument, and a statement of human ambition and imagination. Its enduring presence invites reflection on the ingenuity and sophistication of prehistoric societies, and in its silence, it poses a persistent question. What secrets, encoded in stone, alignment, and ritual, remain to be uncovered by those patient enough to listen to the whispers of a world before written history? Flowing from the sun-drenched limestone temples of Malta, where Skorba stands as a testament to Neolithic ingenuity and ritual sophistication, our journey now stretches far eastward across the Mediterranean to the rugged plains of southwestern Iran. Here, at the foot of towering cliffs near the ancient city of Persepolis, lies Naqsh-e Rustam, a monumental necropolis carved directly into the rock face, where kings, empires, and myths converge in stone. The site commands immediate awe. Colossal tomb facades loom high above the desert floor, their carved reliefs etched with scenes of power, divinity, and conquest, enduring for over 2 millennia. From a distance, Naqsh-e Rustam presents as a series of immense cross-shaped cavities, each carved into the sheer cliff face with painstaking precision. These monumental tombs belong to the Achaemenid kings, dating from the 6th to the 4th centuries BCE, yet their scale and artistry evoke questions that transcend recorded history. Each tomb's facade is adorned with intricate bas-reliefs depicting royal figures, attendants, and divine symbolism, linking the human and the cosmic in ways that suggest an intentional narrative of power, eternity, and order. The sheer size of the carvings, some measuring more than 20 meters across, underscores the ambition and technical skill required to execute such works on a monumental scale. Archaeological and historical studies confirm that these tombs served as burial sites for kings such as Darius I, Xerxes, and Artaxerxes. Yet the precision, alignment, and sheer scale of the reliefs suggest purposes beyond simple interment. How did craftsmen carve these massive images directly into the cliff face with such accuracy, using only hand tools and rudimentary scaffolding? What knowledge of geometry, surveying, and engineering was required to transform vertical rock faces into enduring symbols of authority? And why choose the natural cliffs as a canvas, blending monumental art with the permanence of stone, rather than constructing freestanding mausoleums? The reliefs themselves are remarkable for both artistry and symbolism. They depict kings in a hierarchical scale, receiving tribute, trampling foes, and interacting with symbolic representations of gods and celestial order. These scenes communicate authority, legitimacy, and divine favor, yet the precise meanings of some iconography remain debated. Certain figures and symbols are enigmatic, hinting at lost ritual or cosmological knowledge. Could these carvings serve not only as historical record, but also as a form of encoded communication, a visual language intended to convey messages about power, spirituality, or cosmic order to those able to interpret it? Naqsh-e Rustam also contains later additions, Sasanian reliefs carved centuries after the Achaemenid tombs, depicting kings triumphing over enemies and emphasizing divine sanction. This layering of civilizations, each leaving their mark on the same cliffs, underscores the enduring significance of the site and suggests that its symbolism and strategic location resonated across generations. How did these successive cultures perceive the same stones differently, and what aspects of the site's original purpose were retained, reinterpreted, or lost entirely? The technical sophistication of Naqsh-e Rustam cannot be overstated. The tombs are cut deep into the cliff with precision so exact that the cross-shaped facade forms a self-supporting structure, resisting erosion and seismic activity for centuries. Scholars have speculated on the surveying methods, lever systems, and coordinated labor necessary to achieve this feat. Was this knowledge passed down orally, through apprenticeships, or guided by ritual practices that integrated astronomy, geometry, and religious observance? And what might these methods reveal about the intersection of engineering, art, and belief in pre-modern societies? The placement of Naqsh-e Rustam itself adds to the enigma. Situated near the Zagros Mountains, with commanding views of the plains below, the site was likely chosen for both symbolic and strategic reasons. The cliffs are natural fortifications, yet they also frame the tombs in sunlight, casting shadows that accentuate relief details and monumental scale. Could the orientation of the tombs in relation to the sun, the surrounding landscape, or other nearby sacred sites hold deeper meaning, reflecting cosmological principles or ceremonial intent that guided the Achaemenid builders? Walking among the reliefs today, the scale of human ambition and expression is overwhelming. The carvings seem to speak directly across millennia, narrating stories of power, devotion, and mastery over both stone and imagination. Yet there is a persistent sense of mystery. Not all symbols are understood, Not all inscriptions have survived, and the full scope of the builder's knowledge remains obscured. The site is both historical record and enigmatic puzzle, challenging modern observers to reconcile technical prowess with cultural and spiritual purpose. Perhaps the most compelling question of Naqsh-e Rustam is not how it was constructed, but why. Why embed such monumental artistry directly into natural rock, combining burial, royal propaganda, and cosmic symbolism in a single, enduring form? What knowledge of engineering, astronomy, or ritual practice was preserved within these carvings, and how much has been lost to time, erosion, or the passage of empires? And what can this site, perched at the threshold of mountains and desert, reveal about the capacity of human societies to intertwine technology, art, and spirituality in ways that endure far beyond the lifetime of any individual ruler? As the sun dips low over the plains, casting the tombs of Naqsh-e Rustam into shadow while illuminating the carved kings and symbolic figures, the site exudes a quiet majesty. It is at once monument, mausoleum, and message, a synthesis of human ambition, technical mastery, and ritual significance. Its presence invites reflection on what societies before written history could achieve, and in that stillness, one question remains. What secrets, encoded in rock, relief, and landscape, still wait to be discovered by those willing to read the silent language of a civilization that reached for eternity? Flowing from the monumental cliff-carved tombs of Naqsh-e Rustam, where empires etched their power and cosmology into stone, our journey turns once more to the windswept islands of the Mediterranean, to a series of megalithic monuments scattered across Sardinia, the Giants' Tombs, or Tombe dei Giganti. Here, amid rolling hills, rocky outcrops, and olive groves, these elongated burial mounds rise from the landscape like the resting places of beings larger than life, silent witnesses to a society that flourished over 3,000 years ago, leaving behind stones that continue to evoke awe, mystery, and speculation. At first glance, the giants' tombs appear deceptively simple. Long, rectangular mounds of earth and stone, some extending over 60 meters in length, with towering stone slabs forming the central burial chamber. The entrance is usually marked by a monumental stele, a single vertical stone that rises above the mound like a sentinel guarding secrets of the past. Yet, as one approaches, the scale and precision of construction become evident. The stones are carefully shaped and positioned, forming a central corridor flanked by upright slabs, with smaller stones filling gaps to create a stable, enduring structure. The craftsmanship suggests not only technical knowledge but a deep understanding of space, weight distribution, and the symbolism embedded in monumental architecture. Archaeological studies date the giants' tombs to the Bronze Age, around 1800 to 1600 BCE, a period when the Nuragic civilization of Sardinia was developing an intricate network of settlements, megalithic towers, and sacred spaces. Excavations within the tombs have revealed collective burials, often of dozens of individuals, accompanied by pottery, personal ornaments, and occasionally weapons. These findings indicate that the tombs were communal resting places, reflecting not only mortuary practices, but social organization, belief systems, and perhaps hierarchies within the Nuragic communities. Yet the scale and grandeur of the tombs raise questions that go beyond burial. Why invest such effort in elongated mounds that dwarf ordinary human dimensions? What cultural or symbolic purpose was being served by these structures that gave them the name Giants' Tombs? The architecture itself invites contemplation. The central corridor, often covered by an earthen mound, is designed to channel attention toward the focal point of the chamber, emphasizing both the collective nature of the burial and the ritual experience of those entering. In some tombs, the entrance stele is carved with motifs, spirals, concentric circles, or simple geometric patterns that hint at symbolic or cosmological meaning. Could these carvings represent the cycles of life and death, celestial patterns, or the movement of the sun across the sky? And why were the tombs consistently oriented along a specific axis, frequently facing west, toward the setting sun? Was this deliberate, a symbolic gesture toward the afterlife, or a practical choice dictated by landscape and sun exposure? Beyond the practical and symbolic, the giants' tombs provoke deeper questions about the people who built them. Transporting and erecting massive slabs of stone, some weighing several tons, required coordinated labor, knowledge of leverage, and an understanding of structural balance. How was this knowledge transmitted in a society without written records? How many generations contributed to the construction, maintenance, and use of each tomb? And what does the endurance of these monuments tell us about the social cohesion, spiritual priorities, and technological capabilities of the Nuragic civilization? The landscape surrounding the tombs adds another dimension to the mystery. The monuments are frequently situated on elevated ground or near settlements, commanding views of valleys, rivers, and hills. Their placement suggests an awareness of visibility, both for the living and, in symbolic terms, for the dead. Could the location of the tombs have served as markers of territory, ceremonial focal points, or even celestial observatories? The interaction between landscape, tomb architecture, and ritual practice implies a sophistication in environmental awareness and cultural expression that is striking for a prehistoric society. Speculative interpretations extend further. Some researchers propose that the term giants may not merely refer to the extraordinary size of the mounds, but could also signify a cultural or mythical connection to ancestral heroes, semi-divine figures, or collective memory. Could these tombs have functioned as both burial sites and ceremonial centers, places where the living communed with ancestors, celebrated rites of passage, or engaged with cosmological cycles encoded in the tomb's orientation and design? Comparisons with other megalithic traditions across the Mediterranean, Sicily, Malta, and the Balearic Islands, suggest possible shared motifs, architectural principles, or symbolic languages, hinting at cultural networks that spanned vast distances long before recorded history. Walking through the central corridors of these tombs today, one cannot escape a profound sense of presence. The stones, worn smooth by millennia of wind and human interaction, rise like silent sentinels, shaping space, light, and shadow in ways that seem almost intentional. The elongated chambers feel simultaneously intimate and monumental, capable of accommodating both the dead and the living in a ritualized encounter with mortality and memory. Here, architecture becomes experience, guiding perception, emotion, and reflection in ways that modern observers are only beginning to grasp. Perhaps the most compelling question the giants' tombs pose is not how they were constructed, but why? Why dedicate decades of labor, vast social resources, and advanced technical knowledge to monuments whose purpose extends far beyond practical necessity? What beliefs, cosmological understandings, or social imperatives inspired the creation of these enduring mounds? And what knowledge, ritual, astronomical, or architectural, has been lost, leaving only stones, shadows, and the faint echoes of human ambition? As the Sardinian sun dips low over the hills, casting elongated shadows along the tomb's central corridors and highlighting the textured surfaces of massive stones, the giants' tombs exude a quiet, haunting majesty. They are at once tombs, ceremonial spaces, and monuments to collective memory, embodying a fusion of technical skill, social cohesion, and symbolic expression. Their presence challenges modern assumptions about prehistoric capability and invites reflection on the depth of human imagination, ingenuity, and spiritual aspiration. And in that silence, one question remains, echoing across centuries. What secrets, hidden within the stones, encoded in orientation, or preserved in the memory of the land itself, still await discovery by those patient enough to listen to the enduring whispers of a world before written history? Flowing from the stone corridors of Sardinia's giants' tombs, where collective memory and monumental labor converge in silent testimony, our journey now carries us across the Mediterranean to the sun-baked hills of Cyprus, to one of the most intriguing and enigmatic Neolithic settlements ever discovered, Khirokitia, nestled upon a terraced slope overlooking the Moroni River Valley. Khirokitia appears at first as a series of modest circular mounds, yet beneath the earth lie the remnants of a sophisticated settlement where the rhythm of daily life, communal organization, and early architectural innovation are etched into stone and clay. From a distance, Khirokitia presents as a cluster of low, rounded mounds, their surfaces scarred by centuries of erosion and human activity. Yet even in this understated landscape, the settlement commands attention. Excavations reveal circular houses constructed from carefully shaped stone foundations, with walls once built of wattle and daub and topped with timber roofing. The uniformity of design and repeated architectural patterns suggest more than mere shelter. They indicate planning, coordination, and a vision for communal living that resonates with an almost modern sense of organization. Walking among these remnants, one senses the echoes of a society deeply attuned to both environment and collective necessity. Archaeologists date Khirokitia to approximately 7,000 to 6,500 BCE, making it one of the earliest known permanent settlements in the eastern Mediterranean. Excavations have revealed evidence of communal life, hearths at the center of each house, storage spaces for grain, and carefully arranged interior layouts that suggest social structure and domestic order. The settlement also includes defensive walls, indicating concern for protection and control of movement, though the reasons for such fortifications remain a matter of speculation. How advanced were these communities in their understanding of social cohesion, resource management, and environmental adaptation? And how did these early inhabitants perceive their place within the landscape, the seasons, and the wider world? The architecture of Khirokitia is both practical and symbolic. Each circular house, averaging 6 to 9 meters in diameter, is constructed with concentric rings of stone, creating stability and thermal efficiency. The interiors, organized around a central hearth, suggest communal or family-focused activity, while narrow entrances may have regulated access and movement. Some researchers propose that the circular form held symbolic significance, perhaps reflecting cosmological beliefs, social unity, or an understanding of cycles in nature. Could these simple yet deliberate geometric forms encode cultural or spiritual knowledge now lost to history? Beyond practical architecture, Khirokitia presents mysteries that invite deeper reflection. Skeletal remains discovered within the settlement reveal careful burial practices, with bodies interred beneath the floors of houses or nearby in communal spaces. These practices suggest a profound connection between the living and the dead, implying that domestic life and ritual observance were intertwined. What beliefs underpinned this intimate treatment of the deceased? Was the settlement structured to accommodate not just the living, but the persistent presence of ancestors in everyday life? And how might this interplay between life, death, and architecture inform our understanding of early human cognition and societal complexity? The scale and uniformity of construction at Khirokitia also hint at knowledge transfer and coordination across generations. Stone foundations required careful quarrying and placement, while the timber and clay superstructures demanded precise construction techniques. How was such knowledge preserved and transmitted in a pre-literate society? Was it shared through apprenticeship, ritualized instruction, or communal practice? And how did these early builders balance practicality with symbolic or aesthetic considerations, creating spaces that were both functional and resonant with cultural meaning? The surrounding landscape amplifies the site's enigmatic qualities. Situated on a slope overlooking fertile valleys, Khirokitia was strategically positioned to exploit natural resources, water, arable land, and defensive advantage. Yet its placement also suggests social or spiritual intent. Were these terraces chosen purely for practicality, or did they hold ritual significance, aligning the settlement with celestial events, seasonal cycles, or mythic landscapes? Could the careful integration of houses into the hillside reflect an early understanding of topography, microclimates, or community planning that challenges assumptions about prehistoric intelligence? Speculative interpretations extend further. Some scholars suggest that the circular houses and their clustered arrangement represent an early form of social cohesion and identity, perhaps encoding hierarchy, familial relations, or shared ritual practice in physical form. Others propose that the settlement's orientation, spacing, or relationship to natural landmarks may have been informed by astronomical observations, environmental adaptation, or symbolic cosmology. The fragmentary evidence leaves these ideas open, yet the very possibility that such knowledge was encoded in architecture invites contemplation of the intellectual sophistication of Khirokitia's inhabitants. Walking among the remains today, one senses the rhythm of daily life embedded in stone and soil. The central hearths, worn pathways, and clustered foundations evoke a society intimately connected to its environment, its neighbors, and its own traditions. The settlement conveys continuity, adaptation, and cultural intent, yet also leaves gaps that challenge our understanding. Why choose circular architecture? Why position houses so deliberately within the slope? How much knowledge about community, cosmology, or survival has been lost to time, leaving only traces in stone and clay? Perhaps the most compelling question of Khirokitia lies not in the mechanics of construction, but in the worldview it embodies. Why dedicate effort and ingenuity to settlements that reflect both practical needs and symbolic sophistication? What beliefs, social structures, or cognitive capacities guided these early communities in shaping space, constructing durable dwellings, and integrating life and death into a single lived environment? And what remains hidden, encoded in the terraces, foundations, and circular forms, waiting for careful study or intuitive insight to illuminate its meaning? As the Cypriot sun dips low over the Moroni Valley, casting long shadows across the terraced slopes and highlighting the rounded forms of ancient houses, Khirokitia exudes a quiet, enduring presence. It is at once a settlement, a ceremonial space, and a monument to human ingenuity, resilience, and imagination. Its stones, earth, and traces of life invite reflection on the sophistication of societies that thrived before written history. And in that stillness, one question lingers, echoing across millennia. What knowledge, what insights, what ways of understanding the world remain preserved here, patiently waiting to be discovered by those who can read the subtle language of a civilization that existed long before we left words in the sand? Flowing from the sun-baked terraces and circular dwellings of Khirokitia, where early communities carved rhythm and order into the landscape, our journey now turns northward, across seas and centuries, to the remote archipelago of Orkney, Scotland. Here, amidst windswept grasslands and the ceaseless roar of the Atlantic, stands the Knap of Howar, considered one of the oldest preserved stone houses in northern Europe. Perched on a gentle rise overlooking the sea, this Neolithic settlement offers a rare window into a world of enduring ingenuity, where the rhythms of daily life, survival, and communal experience were inscribed in stone, long before written history could record them. From a distance, the Knap of Howar appears deceptively modest. Two low rectangular stone structures, partially buried in the grass, blend seamlessly with the windswept terrain, their roofs long vanished, leaving only foundations and low walls. Yet even in their simplicity, these buildings command attention. The walls, constructed of carefully fitted local stone, reveal an attention to stability and durability that has allowed the structures to survive more than 5,000 years of wind, rain, and Atlantic storms. Each stone is a testament to the builder's skill, a deliberate choice within a larger architectural vision, hinting at knowledge and techniques preserved across generations. Excavations at the site date the Knap of Howar to around 3,800 to 3,200 BCE, placing it squarely within the late Neolithic period. Inside the houses, archaeologists uncovered hearths, sleeping platforms, storage pits, and domestic artifacts such as pottery, stone tools, and bone implements. These finds reveal a society attuned to subsistence, communal living, and the practical necessities of survival in a challenging environment. Yet, the sophistication of the architecture and the arrangement of interior spaces suggest something more than pragmatism. How did these early inhabitants conceptualize home, family, and community? And how did they manage to build spaces so enduring, using only rudimentary tools and local materials? The interior of each structure is carefully organized. The main room contains a central hearth, evidence of domestic life, cooking, and warmth. Adjacent spaces appear to have been used for sleeping, storage, and possibly craftwork. Narrow doorways connect rooms, carefully designed to shield inhabitants from harsh winds while allowing movement and ventilation. The layout is simple, yet remarkably efficient, demonstrating an understanding of spatial dynamics, human behavior, and environmental adaptation. Could this organization reflect more than functional necessity? Perhaps social hierarchy, ritual behavior, or symbolic meaning embedded in the arrangement of space? The placement of the Knap of Howar itself is significant. Situated on a low promontory, the houses command views of the surrounding coastline and sea routes, providing access to fishing grounds, foraging areas, and transport paths. At the same time, the location is exposed to the elements, suggesting a willingness to balance risk and reward. Was the settlement's position chosen purely for practical reasons, or did it hold symbolic significance, connecting the inhabitants to the sea, the horizon, and the cycles of sun and tides? How might these early people have perceived their environment, and what role did observation, timing, and celestial awareness play in the positioning of their homes? Beyond practical and environmental considerations, Knap of Howar raises deeper questions about cultural sophistication and knowledge transfer. The construction of stone walls, the design of integrated hearths, and the careful placement of functional areas all suggest skills passed through communal teaching or apprenticeship. Yet, in a pre-literate society, how was knowledge preserved and shared? How many generations contributed to the refinement of these structures, and what insights about engineering, observation, or ritual practice might have been encoded in these enduring forms? Speculative interpretation further deepens the site's mystery. The alignment and orientation of the houses hint at a possible relationship to solar or seasonal patterns, suggesting that the inhabitants were attuned to the movements of the sun, the phases of the moon, or the cycles of tides. Could the design of the buildings, the placement of doorways, or the organization of interior space reflect an understanding of time, celestial cycles, or spiritual practice that is now lost to history? Comparisons with other Neolithic settlements across Orkney, the Scottish mainland, and even distant Mediterranean sites hint at potential cultural parallels, raising questions about the diffusion of architectural knowledge across early Europe. Walking among the ruins today, one senses the rhythm of domestic life embedded in stone. The hearths, thresholds, and low walls evoke human presence, intimacy, and daily routine. It is possible to imagine the inhabitants preparing food, sharing stories, and observing the changing seasons from within these sturdy walls. Yet alongside this intimacy lies monumentality. The houses are enduring, resilient, and carefully crafted, signaling an awareness of permanence and an ambition to create spaces that would outlast individual lifetimes. Perhaps the most profound question posed by the Knap of Howar is not how it was constructed, but why. Why dedicate such meticulous effort, coordination, and architectural skill to houses that blend functionality, resilience, and symbolic resonance? What beliefs, social structures, or environmental knowledge guided the builders in shaping space, arranging domestic life, and positioning their homes within the landscape? And what knowledge of construction, observation, or ritual practice remains hidden in the stones, waiting to be deciphered by those willing to listen to the subtle language of a pre-literate world? As the Orkney wind sweeps across the grassy slope and the North Sea glimmers in the distance, the Knap of Howar exudes a quiet, enduring presence. It is at once home, monument, and archive, a record of ingenuity, adaptation, and human ambition etched into stone. Its simplicity belies sophistication, its durability speaks of knowledge, observation, and foresight. And in that stillness, one question lingers across millennia. What other insights, embedded in the stones, hearths, and thresholds of these ancient homes, await discovery by those patient enough to read the whispers of a civilization that existed long before the written word recorded the story of human ingenuity? Flowing from the wind-battered stone houses of Orkney's Knap of Howar, where early Europeans mastered permanence and domestic ingenuity, our journey now descends into the subterranean mysteries of Malta. Hidden beneath the modern streets of Paola lies the Ħal Saflieni Hypogeum, a labyrinthine underground complex that defies expectations of prehistoric engineering. From the first step into its narrow entrance, one is enveloped in an atmosphere both intimate and monumental, where shadow, stone, and silence converge to create a space that has inspired awe and speculation for over 5 millennia. At first glance, the hypogeum seems almost otherworldly. Its entrance is unassuming, marked only by a modest doorway that opens onto descending steps carved directly into the soft Globigerina limestone. As one moves downward, the passage narrows, then opens into a series of chambers and corridors that twist and turn with deliberate complexity. The walls are smooth, meticulously shaped, and in places decorated with red ochre motifs, concentric circles, and linear patterns. Every detail suggests intention. This is architecture not of necessity alone, but of profound design, where the human hand sought to harmonize with the stone and the subterranean environment. Archaeological studies date the hypogeum to around 3,600 to 2,500 BCE, placing it firmly within the Maltese Neolithic period. The site was discovered in 1902, and excavations have revealed multiple levels. The upper level, thought to serve as a ceremonial space, the middle level, possibly used for ritual or burial purposes, and the lower, more intimate chambers, housing the remains of hundreds of individuals. Skeletal evidence, along with artifacts such as pottery, figurines, and tools, indicates that the hypogeum functioned as a funerary and ceremonial complex. Yet the sophistication of its design, its acoustic properties, and its subterranean scale suggest intentions that reach far beyond practical burial. The architecture of Ħal Saflieni is astonishing. Its chambers are carved with precision, corbelled roofs rising to form spacious interiors, while the walls are often finished with smooth stone surfaces, reflecting both skill and patience. Narrow passageways, strategic curves, and deliberate chamber shapes guide movement through the space, creating an experiential journey for those who entered. Certain chambers, such as the Oracle Room, are renowned for their acoustic resonance. Spoken sounds or chants are amplified, reverberating throughout the chamber in a manner that seems deliberately engineered. How did Neolithic builders achieve such acoustic mastery without metal tools, formal calculations, or written knowledge? And what purpose did this resonance serve? Ritual communication, spiritual invocation, or an early understanding of the interaction between sound and human perception? The placement and orientation of the hypogeum raise further questions. It lies partially beneath a natural hill, yet its internal chambers are aligned with remarkable precision. Some scholars suggest that certain passages may interact with sunlight during solstices or other significant celestial events, allowing light to penetrate deep into the structure at precise moments. Could the builders have been encoding cosmological knowledge within the very layout of stone and earth, connecting human activity to celestial rhythms? Or were these alignments symbolic gestures, bridging the material world with spiritual beliefs beyond our comprehension? The hypogeum's purpose remains a subject of fascination and debate. Skeletal remains reveal carefully positioned bodies, some articulated, others rearranged over time, suggesting complex funerary rituals and sustained use over centuries. Red ochre traces indicate symbolic or ritualistic practices, while figurines and pottery fragments hint at offerings, ceremonies, or markers of status. How did the inhabitants conceptualize death, ancestry, and the afterlife? And what societal structures allowed for the creation and maintenance of such a sophisticated underground complex over generations? Beyond mainstream archaeology, Ħal Saflieni inspires more speculative reflection. Some researchers propose that the hypogeum functioned not only as a tomb, but as a ritual theater, a sanctuary, or a repository of knowledge encoded in stone, sound, and movement. The intentionality of its design, the orchestration of light, shadow, and resonance, suggests a cognitive sophistication that challenges assumptions about prehistoric societies. Could these chambers have been used to facilitate altered states of consciousness, spiritual journeys, or communal rites that connected participants with the unseen forces they believed shaped their world? The site's longevity adds to its mystique. For more than 5,000 years, the hypogeum has remained largely intact, protected by the very rock in which it was carved. Its endurance attests not only to technical skill, but also to a conceptual understanding of permanence, sustainability, and environmental adaptation. How did these early builders anticipate the passage of time and the preservation of their sacred space? And what does the hypogeum tell us about the intersection of human ambition, spirituality, and material knowledge in a society without written records? Walking through the corridors today, one senses both intimacy and monumentality. The chambers are enclosed yet expansive, tactile yet ethereal. The silence is profound, broken only by the echo of footsteps or whispered speech, revealing the acoustic qualities that have intrigued researchers for decades. Each step through the hypogeum invites reflection on the rhythm of life and death, the intentions of the builders, and the unseen patterns that may have guided their hands. The space is at once domestic, ceremonial, and cosmic, a convergence of human, material, and spiritual expression that defies easy categorization. Perhaps the most compelling question of Ħal Saflieni is not how it was constructed, but why. Why dedicate decades of labor, generations of knowledge, and extraordinary skill to carve such a labyrinth into the limestone? What beliefs, social imperatives, or spiritual insights compelled its creation? And what remains hidden, encoded in sound, space, light, or the subtle arrangements of stone, waiting to be discovered by those who approach with patience and perception? As the Maltese sun fades behind the surrounding hills, casting long shadows across the site and into the underground chambers, the hypogeum exudes a quiet majesty. It is simultaneously tomb, temple, and monument, a space where architecture, ritual, and human aspiration converge. Its enduring presence challenges assumptions about prehistoric capability, inviting reflection on the intellectual, social, and spiritual sophistication of the society that built it. And in the stillness of these ancient subterranean halls, one question lingers, echoing across millennia. What other secrets, hidden within the rock, the resonance, and the alignment of this extraordinary complex, remain to be discovered, patiently awaiting those who seek to listen to the voices of a world long vanished yet never forgotten? As we leave behind the sprawling megaliths of the Mediterranean coasts, our journey takes us to an island where the whispers of ancient civilizations seem to linger in the winds themselves. Sardinia, rugged and enigmatic, holds a secret that defies conventional understanding, a structure so out of place, so enigmatic in its design, that it has puzzled archaeologists for decades. Here stands Monte Dakoti, a singular monument rising from the plain near Sassari, an edifice both ancient and monumental, its origins lost deep in the shadowy corridors of prehistory. From a distance, Monte Dakoti resembles a truncated pyramid, a stepped platform of massive stone blocks, its silhouette stark against the Sardinian sky. Unlike the sprawling temples of Egypt or the ceremonial mounds of Mesopotamia, this structure is compact yet monumental, commanding attention in the otherwise gentle landscape. The air around it feels charged, as if the stones themselves remember the rituals that once played out upon their surface. Sunlight drifts over its terraces, illuminating the weathered limestone and basalt that have endured for more than 4,000 years. And yet, for all its solidity, Monte Dakoti retains an aura of impermanence, as if it exists partly in memory and myth. Archaeologists date the site to the Neolithic period, around 4000 to 3000 BCE, placing it among the oldest monumental constructions in Western Europe. Its design, a large rectangular platform topped by a smaller raised structure, is unique in the Mediterranean. Some have compared it to a Mesopotamian ziggurat, though there is no evidence of direct contact. The function of Monte Dakoti remains elusive. Excavations have revealed altars, animal bones, and fragments of pottery, suggesting that it was a site of ritual significance. Some theorize it served as a temple or ceremonial platform, perhaps for offerings to deities, the sky, or celestial bodies. Yet, the more we examine Monte Dakoti, the more questions arise. The construction techniques, for example, are astonishingly sophisticated for its time. Massive stones were carefully quarried, shaped, and stacked without the benefit of metal tools. The precision of the terraces hints at an advanced understanding of engineering, far beyond what might be expected from a small Neolithic community. How did these ancient builders transport the stones? How did they ensure such stability across centuries? And why did they choose this particular spot, isolated atop a natural mound, rather than along the coast or within the fertile valleys below? The alignment of Monte Dakoti adds another layer of mystery. Some researchers suggest that the structure's axis is oriented toward astronomical phenomena, such as the rising sun during solstices. Could this have been a giant celestial observatory, a terrestrial calendar to mark the passage of seasons, vital for an agrarian society dependent on timing for planting and harvest? Or perhaps it was meant to bridge the terrestrial and the divine, allowing the priests or leaders of the time to commune with forces beyond the visible world. Fragments of ritual objects recovered from the site deepen the intrigue. Animal bones, intentionally broken and burned, suggest sacrificial practices, yet their exact meaning remains uncertain. Pottery shards indicate communal feasting, a shared experience that may have united the society around this sacred center. Yet, for all the evidence of human activity, there are no inscriptions, no carvings, no symbolic language that explains the purpose of Monte Dakoti in words. The story is told in silence, in stone, in the space itself, a narrative only partially decipherable to modern eyes. Some researchers have ventured into more speculative territory, not to sensationalize but to explore the unknown. The stepped design, the solitary prominence, the sheer precision of the construction, these elements invite comparison to other mysterious sites across the globe. Could Monte Dakoti have been influenced by or parallel to ancient ziggurats in Mesopotamia or the ceremonial pyramids of Mesoamerica? Is it possible that knowledge, now lost, traveled across continents in ways we can scarcely imagine? Or could these similarities be the result of convergent development, the human mind arriving independently at similar solutions to spiritual or practical challenges? Even more enigmatic is the question of why such a monumental site was eventually abandoned. Unlike other ancient centers that evolved into cities or continued as places of worship, Monte Dakoti appears to have been used intermittently, then left to the elements. Did the population decline? Did belief systems shift? Or was the site perhaps deemed too powerful, too sacred, and intentionally left untouched to preserve its mysteries? Stones that were once meticulously aligned now bear the marks of time and erosion. The terraces partially collapsed, yet the structure endures, a ghostly testament to human ambition and ritual. Local legends add a further dimension. Folklore speaks of the mound as a place where the earth and sky meet, a point of cosmic resonance, echoing the timeless human fascination with portals between worlds. These tales, passed down through generations, hint at the enduring impact of Monte Dakoti, not just as a physical structure, but as a symbol in the collective memory of the island. Even today, the site draws not only archaeologists, but those seeking connection with something beyond ordinary experience. There is a quiet magnetism here, a pull that feels almost inexplicable, as if the mound itself carries a memory too deep for words. As we circle the terraces and trace the worn steps with our eyes, the enormity of the unanswered questions becomes clear. Every stone seems deliberately placed, yet the reasons behind their arrangement remain elusive. The platform rises, seemingly simple, yet its scale and precision defy the capabilities of a society that left no written record. Could Monte Dakoti represent a lost chapter in human technological development, an experiment in engineering or spirituality that our ancestors perfected, but we have only begun to understand? Or is its mystery intentionally unresolvable, a silent challenge to generations separated by millennia? Perhaps the most haunting aspect of Monte Dakoti is its timeless presence. It has survived the rise and fall of civilizations, the spread of empires, and the relentless erosion of centuries. And yet, for all its endurance, it remains largely unexplained. Scholars debate, theories abound, but certainty remains elusive. Each visitor, each researcher, is left with the same question that has echoed across the ages. What was this place truly for? As we stand on the edge of the mound, looking out over the Sardinian plains, it becomes clear that Monte Dakoti is more than a structure of stone. It is a monument to curiosity, to human ingenuity, and to mystery itself. The answers may lie hidden beneath layers of sediment, encoded in the alignments of the stars, or perhaps they were never meant to be fully known. We may measure its stones, study its alignments, and reconstruct its history, yet part of its essence will always remain just out of reach. And so, we leave Monte Dakoti as we found it, a silent sentinel of the ancient world, whispering questions into the wind. Who built it and why? What knowledge did they possess, now lost to time? As the sun begins to dip behind the distant hills, casting long shadows across the terraces, one is left to wonder whether the true purpose of Monte Dakoti is a puzzle waiting to be solved, or a mystery meant to endure, as enigmatic as the people who once walked its sacred stones. From the rugged plains of Sardinia, our journey now carries us across the Mediterranean Sea to another island steeped in mystery, Malta. Here, amid rolling hills and sun-baked fields, rise the monumental Ġgantija Temples, a prehistoric marvel whose sheer presence seems to defy the centuries. Unlike Monte da Codi, whose solitary terraces dominate the landscape, Ġgantija unfolds as a complex of twin temples, massive and enigmatic, their stones stacked with deliberate precision. Even today, standing at the base of these ancient walls, one feels dwarfed by the ambition of their creators, as if confronted by a civilization reaching toward the heavens without the benefit of written history. The Ġgantija temples date back to around 3,600 to 3,200 BCE, making them some of the oldest freestanding stone structures in the world, predating the Great Pyramids of Egypt by centuries. Their name, derived from the Maltese word for giant, reflects the local legend that these were the work of beings far larger and stronger than humans. As we trace the contours of the enormous limestone blocks, some weighing over 50 tons, it is easy to see why such myths arose. How, for a society without metal tools or wheeled transport, were these monoliths quarried, shaped, and moved into precise alignment? The temples themselves are composed of curving walls that form intricate, almost organic enclosures. Unlike the straight lines of Egyptian pyramids or Mesopotamian ziggurats, Ġgantija's architecture feels fluid, as though it were designed to harmonize with the natural contours of the land. Each temple contains a series of apses, rounded chambers connected by narrow passageways, leading to central altars whose purpose remains tantalizingly obscure. Archaeologists have discovered fragments of pottery, figurines, and animal bones, evidence of rituals and offerings. Yet, the exact meaning of these rites, the beliefs that inspired them, has vanished into the mists of time. One cannot help but be struck by the astonishing scale and precision of construction. The walls, composed of enormous stones carefully fitted together, rise to heights exceeding 6 meters in some places. There is no mortar. The blocks rely solely on gravity and balance, yet they have endured for millennia. How did these builders, using only simple tools, achieve such stability? Were their methods lost to history, techniques passed down orally that we can scarcely imagine today? The more we study Ġgantija, the more it challenges assumptions about the capabilities of Neolithic societies. The temple's alignment introduces an additional layer of mystery. Some scholars have suggested that the structures were oriented to celestial events, possibly the rising of the sun during solstices or equinoxes. Could these temples have functioned as an early form of observatory, a place where the cycles of the heavens were tracked and celebrated? Or were they purely ceremonial, their orientation symbolic rather than practical? The precise intent remains elusive, obscured by time, leaving room for speculation and wonder. Perhaps the most striking feature of Ġgantija is the sheer physicality of the stones themselves. Local legends, whispered across generations, claim that giants must have lifted the monoliths into place, giving the site its enduring name. While such tales are metaphorical, they underscore a fundamental truth. The human mind, even in the distant Neolithic, reached for scale and permanence far beyond the ordinary. Each block, each chamber, carries a weight of intention, suggesting a civilization deeply attuned to both their physical and spiritual environment. Excavations have revealed ritual objects that hint at the life and beliefs of the temple's builders. Figurines of women, often interpreted as fertility symbols, suggest that fertility rites may have played a central role. Animal bones indicate sacrificial practices, while traces of grain and cereal point to offerings linked to agriculture. Yet even with these clues, the temples resist full understanding. Why were they built as twin structures, almost mirror images of one another? What did the creators hope to achieve, and why did they invest such monumental effort into spaces that seem, at first glance, utilitarian only in a ritual sense? Some researchers have proposed that Ġgantija was not merely a religious center, but a hub for a highly organized society. The coordination required to quarry, transport, and assemble stones of such magnitude implies not only technological skill, but social organization on a scale we rarely associate with Neolithic Malta. Was there a ruling priesthood, a class of skilled engineers, or even a system of communal governance designed around these sacred spaces? The evidence hints at sophistication, yet much of it remains frustratingly incomplete. Fringe theories, while speculative, arise naturally in response to such enigmas. Some have noted the similarities between Ġgantija and other megalithic structures across the Mediterranean, from Sardinia to Crete, raising the possibility of knowledge exchange or a shared architectural tradition. Could the builders have possessed knowledge of engineering and astronomy now lost to time? Or do these similarities reflect a universal human impulse, a convergent evolution of ritual architecture arising independently in disparate cultures? While we may never know, the very questions deepen our sense of awe. The temples also carry an eerie, almost tactile sense of history. Even in the absence of written records, one can feel a connection across millennia. Each stone seems to hum with the echo of rituals long past, each chamber whispering of hands that shaped it, lifted it, and walked its corridors. For visitors today, the experience is profound. Ġgantija is not simply a relic to observe, but a space that demands reflection, inviting us to imagine the lives, beliefs, and dreams of those who built it. As with Monte the abandonment of Ġgantija raises compelling questions. The temples were used for centuries before being left to decay, their original purpose fading as the society that built them evolved or vanished. Did environmental change, social upheaval, or shifts in belief lead to their desertion? Or were they intentionally preserved as sacred monuments, left untouched so that their mysteries might endure? The temples stand as a paradox, enduring symbols of permanence, yet deliberately enigmatic, resisting final interpretation. Local myths enrich the narrative, blending history with imagination. The giants of legend, the whispered tales of sacred rites, and the lingering sense of the extraordinary all suggest that Ġgantija has always been more than stone. It is a site where human aspiration, spirituality, and mystery converge, where the boundaries between the practical and the sacred blur. And perhaps this is precisely why the temples endure, not merely as monuments to the past, but as catalysts for our own curiosity and imagination. As we explore the chambers, tracing the worn surfaces of limestone with our eyes, we are confronted with the limits of modern knowledge. Technology allows us to date the stones, analyze residue, and model construction methods, yet none of it fully explains the human impulse behind the creation. What drove these ancient builders to raise stones far larger than themselves? What visions of the divine, the natural world, or the cosmos compelled them to invest so fully in these structures? The Ġgantija Temples compel reflection on the broader story of humanity's prehistoric achievements. They challenge assumptions about what early societies were capable of and reveal a continuity of human curiosity, ingenuity, and spirituality that transcends written history. And yet, for all the insights gained through excavation and research, the temples remain, at their core, a profound mystery. The silence of the stones echoes louder than any artifact or written record, urging us to look beyond what is known and imagine what might have been. Standing on the sunlit terraces, feeling the uneven weight of history in the air, one cannot help but wonder, how many secrets lie buried within the walls of Ġgantija, hidden not just by time but by the limits of understanding itself? Are there meanings encoded in the alignments, the shapes of the chambers, the placement of the altars, that we have yet to perceive? And if so, what might they reveal, not just about the people who built these temples, but about the untapped potential of human ingenuity across the ages? As we leave Ġgantija behind, the twin temples receding into the Maltese landscape, the questions linger, as insistent and as mysterious as ever. They are reminders that history is not merely a record of the past, but a living dialogue with the unknown. In their silent grandeur, the Ġgantija temples invite us to ponder not only the people who built them, but also the enduring capacity of human beings to reach beyond the ordinary, to craft monuments that speak across millennia, and to leave mysteries that may never be fully solved. And so, as the Mediterranean sun dips low, casting long shadows across the sacred stones, we are left with a simple, profound question. What else remains hidden in the hearts of these ancient monuments, waiting for us to see beyond the obvious, to feel the pulse of a civilization long vanished but not forgotten? Gunung Padang rises above the rolling hills of West Java, Indonesia, shrouded in mist and mystery. From a distance, it appears as a natural hill, crowned with terraces of stone that cling to its slopes like steps leading to the heavens. Yet the closer one draws, the more it becomes apparent that these formations are not merely natural, they are meticulously arranged, hinting at a monumental effort whose origins and purpose have long puzzled researchers and travelers alike. The site consists of multiple terraces, each supported by massive basalt columns, carefully stacked to create flat platforms that ascend the hill. Archaeologists estimate that the visible structures date back at least 3,000 to 5,000 years, situating Gunung Padang among the oldest known megalithic sites in Southeast Asia. Excavations have revealed more layers beneath the surface, suggesting that the hill itself may have been artificially enhanced, a construction far older than the surface structures would indicate. How deep does this mystery go? How many centuries, or millennia, of human ingenuity are hidden within the earth here? The basalt stones are not uniform. Many are columnar, naturally fractured by cooling processes, yet they have been strategically placed to form terraces and foundations. The precision with which they fit together, sometimes without mortar, demonstrates a keen understanding of geometry and structural stability. Traditional explanations suggest that Gunung Padang served as a ceremonial or ritual site, a place for gatherings, offerings, and astronomical observations. Artifacts such as pottery shards and tools hint at prolonged human occupation and activity. However, the site's true antiquity remains a matter of intense debate. Some geologists argue that the terraces are the result of natural volcanic activity, shaped and arranged only partially by human hands. Others, including proponents of alternative archaeology, suggest that the foundations could date back as far as 20,000 years, predating the rise of known civilizations and challenging conventional timelines of human development. Could there have been a lost culture, one whose knowledge and capabilities have been almost entirely erased by time? The scale of Gunung Padang is staggering. The terraces stretch over 5 hectares, supported by thousands of stones, each weighing several tons. To imagine early humans moving and stacking these megaliths without modern machinery strains the imagination. Could it have been accomplished with simple tools, ingenuity, and sheer manpower, or does this hint at techniques and knowledge now lost to history? The answer remains tantalizingly out of reach. One of the most compelling aspects of Gunung Padang is its layering. Archaeological studies suggest at least 5 distinct strata, each revealing different levels of construction, some buried beneath meters of soil. Radiocarbon dating of organic material within these layers has yielded a surprising range of ages, some much older than expected. Could the site have been built and rebuilt over thousands of years, perhaps by multiple cultures, each adding their own touch? And if so, what cultural or spiritual motivations drove such sustained effort across generations? The hill's design itself raises questions about ancient understanding of astronomy and geometry. Certain alignments seem to correspond with solstices or other celestial events, echoing practices observed in other megalithic sites around the world. Was Gunung Padang a celestial observatory? A place where humans measured and understood the movements of the sun and stars? Or is this a coincidental arrangement of stones? The patterns invite speculation, urging us to consider the level of sophistication that early societies may have possessed. Fringe theories propose even more enigmatic possibilities. Some researchers argue that Gunung Padang might conceal a vast, forgotten underground complex, with tunnels or chambers that have yet to be explored. Others suggest that the site could contain knowledge or technology from a civilization older than any we have recorded. While these ideas are speculative, they underscore the profound sense of wonder and mystery that the site evokes. Even without definitive proof, the notion that we are only seeing the surface of a much larger enigma is both compelling and humbling. The local legends add an additional layer of intrigue. Stories tell of giants and ancient kings, of beings with knowledge and power far beyond what ordinary humans could achieve. These myths, passed down orally through generations, hint at a collective memory of extraordinary builders and extraordinary feats. Could folklore preserve fragments of historical truth encoded in allegory and symbol, waiting to be interpreted by the patient eye of modern archaeology? Exploring Gunung Padang in person reinforces its uncanny presence. The terraces feel alive, as if the stones themselves carry echoes of the past. The air is heavy with the weight of millennia, and the quiet hum of the hill, a subtle vibration, perhaps imagined, perhaps real, invites reflection on the passage of time and the human drive to shape the world. Every stone seems deliberate, yet every deliberate act raises new questions. Was the hill a sacred site, a fortress, a calendar, or something beyond our current understanding entirely? The scientific studies conducted here have uncovered traces of ancient human activity and even indications of advanced techniques for their time, such as sophisticated stone-cutting methods and the deliberate stacking of heavy columns to form stable terraces. Yet every discovery is paired with anomalies that resist easy explanation. Some stones show signs of weathering that challenge the proposed timelines, while other measurements hint at alignments that appear almost intentional on a cosmic scale. Could ancient humans have possessed a deeper understanding of natural forces, lost to us today? Gunung Padang also compels us to reconsider the concept of ancient technological capability. The site suggests that humans, even in prehistoric times, were capable of extraordinary feats, both physically and intellectually. Could these achievements reflect a culture that valued knowledge, spirituality, and communal effort in ways we are only beginning to appreciate? If so, what else lies hidden, buried beneath layers of soil and time, waiting to reveal itself to those who look closely enough? The questions extend beyond archaeology into the philosophical. What motivates humans to build such structures, to impose order on nature, to attempt permanence in a world defined by impermanence? In Gunung Padang, the answers are obscured, fragmentary, tantalizing. Each layer, each stone, each alignment hints at intentions that remain elusive, inviting us to imagine the minds that conceived them and the hands that brought them into being. Walking the terraces at sunrise, the mist rolling over the slopes, one cannot help but feel a sense of connection across millennia. There is a quiet grandeur here, a reminder that human curiosity and ambition are timeless. And yet, for all our investigation and scientific scrutiny, Gunung Padang retains its mystery. It is a place where history, myth, and speculation intertwine, leaving us with more questions than answers. Perhaps the greatest intrigue lies in what we have not yet discovered. Layers of earth and stone may conceal further secrets, evidence of earlier civilizations, or knowledge of which we can only speculate. As we peer into the past, the site challenges our assumptions about human history, encouraging us to keep asking, exploring, and imagining. What ancient wisdom might be encoded in its stones? What truths, lost to time, might still emerge if we look with patience, curiosity, and respect? Gunung Padang stands not only as a monument of stone, but as a testament to the enduring mysteries of human endeavor. It is a reminder that, even in our era of technology and information, there remain places that defy full understanding, where the past reaches out to us, urging contemplation and wonder. And perhaps, in the silent terraces of this ancient hill, the greatest discovery is the recognition of how much remains hidden, waiting, patiently, for the right moment to reveal itself. Bryn Celli Ddu rises from the rolling green landscape of Anglesey, its grassy mound unassuming at first glance, yet hiding a labyrinth of history beneath its gentle slopes. From the outside, it appears as a simple Neolithic barrow, a modest hillock blending seamlessly with the surrounding countryside. Yet step closer, and the subtle hints of human intent emerge: the precisely carved entrance, the alignment of the passage, the delicate placement of stones that form a structure both functional and symbolic. Here, nature and human design are intertwined in ways that continue to fascinate archaeologists and visitors alike. The site dates back approximately 5,000 years, belonging to a period when prehistoric communities in Wales were beginning to construct monuments of stone and earth, a time when oral tradition, ritual, and a profound sense of cosmology guided daily life. Bryn Celli Ddu, often referred to as the Mound in the Dark Grove, is not merely a burial site. Beneath its modest exterior lies a carefully engineered passage tomb, a structure that hints at advanced understanding of both architecture and the celestial cycles. Entering the mound, one is immediately struck by the narrow passage, a corridor of carefully fitted stones that leads to a small chamber. The passage is oriented so that, on the summer solstice, sunlight penetrates the darkness and illuminates the chamber's interior. This deliberate alignment suggests a sophisticated grasp of solar movement, hinting at ritual significance tied to cycles of life, death, and renewal. How did a society without written language or advanced instruments achieve such precision? What motivated them to harness the sun's journey across the sky in stone? Archaeological excavations have revealed multiple phases of use and reconstruction. Evidence suggests that Bryn Celli Ddu began as a simple circular monument, later transformed into the passage tomb we see today. This evolution hints at continuity of ritual and cultural memory spanning generations, perhaps centuries. The careful selection of stones, the labor involved in moving them, and the subtle design of the passage all speak to a community deeply invested in both practical engineering and spiritual practice. The interior of the tomb contains a central stone, sometimes referred to as the altar stone, upon which remains and offerings were placed. Fragments of human bone, pottery shards, and tools have been discovered, pointing to ceremonial activity, though the full extent of these practices remains obscured by time. Who were the people who built this structure? What were the rituals performed here, and what did they hope to achieve through them? The exterior landscape is no less compelling. The mound is encircled by a stone alignment, a subtle pattern that some suggest may mark astronomical or calendrical events, though interpretation remains uncertain. The area is rich in prehistoric remains, including nearby standing stones and enclosures, indicating that Bryn Celli Ddu was part of a broader sacred landscape. How did these structures relate to one another? Were they markers of territorial control, focal points for communal gatherings, or conduits for spiritual practice? The precise answers remain elusive. Fringe theories add further layers of mystery. Some suggest that the alignment with the solstice might indicate knowledge of astronomy far beyond what is typically ascribed to Neolithic societies. Others propose that the site could have served as a repository of ancient wisdom, a symbolic map of the cosmos encoded in stone. While these interpretations remain speculative, they underscore the profound sense of intentionality evident in every aspect of the monument. Bryn Celli Ddu also presents anomalies that challenge straightforward explanations. The passage itself appears to have been carefully planned to allow a specific beam of light to travel a precise distance into the chamber, a phenomenon that continues to draw observers during the summer solstice. Some stones show wear patterns suggesting repeated movement or ritualized interaction. Could these details reveal lost ceremonial practices, forgotten techniques, or a cultural knowledge that modern archaeology is only beginning to glimpse? Local folklore enriches the narrative further. The mound is shrouded in legend, said to have been a place of power, a locus of spiritual energy where the veil between the physical and the metaphysical was thin. Such stories, passed down through centuries, hint at a continuity of human imagination and reverence, a cultural memory that survived even as the original builders faded into history. Could myth and memory preserve truths about human activity that science alone cannot fully decipher? The quiet majesty of Bryn Celli Ddu is particularly palpable when experienced in situ. Standing within the narrow passage, feeling the stone walls rise on either side, one becomes aware of the deliberate intimacy of the space. It is both protective and awe-inspiring, a place that seems designed to make the observer feel simultaneously small and connected to something larger. Every stone, every curve of the passage carries intention, yet its ultimate meaning remains just beyond reach. Excavations have also revealed evidence of post holes and wooden structures, suggesting that the mound may have once supported timber elements or other temporary constructions. This adds another layer of complexity, indicating that the site was not static but dynamic, adapted and reused over generations. How did the builders integrate these elements with the enduring stone structures? What knowledge guided their choices, and how was it preserved across the centuries? The surrounding landscape adds further intrigue. Bryn Celli Ddu sits within a context of Neolithic activity that includes nearby cairns, ritual enclosures, and alignments with other significant natural features. The broader topography suggests a careful selection of the site, chosen not only for practical considerations, but also for its symbolic and spiritual resonance. How did the builders perceive the landscape? Was it a map, a calendar, a canvas for ritual expression, or all of these at once? Even with meticulous study, many questions remain unanswered. The precision of the solstice alignment, the layering of construction, the use of specific stones and spaces, all invite reflection on what we can truly know about the past. Could Bryn Celli Ddu have functioned as a teaching space, a calendar, a spiritual sanctuary, or something beyond our conceptual framework? The ambiguity is part of its enduring allure. The Neolithic builders of Bryn Celli Ddu were guided by motivations we can only speculate upon, yet their work endures. A silent testament to human creativity, observation, and reverence. In this mound, the boundary between life and death, the natural and the constructed, the mundane and the sacred, seems delicately balanced. Observers are invited to contemplate not just the technical achievement, but the cultural and spiritual mindset that gave rise to such a place. Walking the surrounding fields as dawn light touches the mound, one feels a profound connection to the cycles of nature that the builders themselves must have observed. The long shadows cast by the rising sun echo through the narrow passage, a fleeting reminder of the same light that illuminated ceremonies thousands of years ago. And yet, even in the quiet, there is an awareness that much remains hidden. The mound whispers questions, invites curiosity, and challenges modern understanding. Perhaps the most compelling aspect of Bryn Celli Ddu is its persistence. Despite millennia of weathering, agriculture, and human interference, the mound retains its essential mystery. Each layer of stone, each alignment, each trace of human activity beckons observers to explore, to ask, and to imagine. What knowledge, what stories, what rituals remain concealed within the mound? How much of the past, once so vital to the builders, has faded into silence? Bryn Celli Ddu, like many megalithic sites, stands as a reminder that the ancient world was far more complex and intentional than we often assume. It is a place where time folds upon itself, where human endeavor and natural landscape converge, and where the questions it poses may be as important as any answers. And perhaps, in the quiet, grassy mound of Anglesey, the greatest revelation is the recognition of the mysteries that still endure, waiting for the patient observer to consider, to reflect, and to wonder what lies beneath the stones. Rising from the steep terraces of the sacred valley, Ollantaytambo greets the eye with a striking symmetry, its stone walls seemingly grown out of the mountainside itself. The late afternoon sun casts long shadows across the ancient terraces, highlighting the precise geometry of the blocks that compose the fortress's monumental walls. Here, in the shadow of towering peaks, one cannot help but feel the weight of time pressing down, a palpable connection to a civilization that flourished long before the world as we know it had taken shape. The very air seems charged, as if echoing whispers of hands that carved and shaped stones beyond the imagination of most modern engineers. At first glance, Ollantaytambo's walls resemble the familiar work of the Inca, massive stones meticulously fitted together without mortar, a hallmark of their architectural genius. Yet the closer one examines these structures, the more questions arise. The blocks are enormous, some weighing dozens of tons, and yet they align with an almost surgical precision. Angles are perfectly squared, surfaces polished to fit seamlessly with neighboring stones. Even centuries of earthquakes, landslides, and the relentless test of time have failed to disturb their alignment. How did the builders accomplish such feats without cranes, pulleys, or the mechanical advantage afforded by modern machinery? The largest of these stones, some measuring over 20 feet in length, seem almost impossible to move. Scholars suggest a combination of manpower, ropes, and ingenuity in leveraging natural slopes. Experimental archaeology has shown that moving stones of this magnitude, even with large teams, is painstakingly slow and requires extraordinary coordination. But when one stands before the wall, running a hand across the cool, polished surface, it becomes difficult not to wonder if there might be methods lost to history, techniques erased from collective memory or deliberately hidden in secrecy. Beyond their sheer size, the stones themselves are a subject of fascination. Carved from local andesite and granite, the walls reveal an intimate understanding of geology. The builders selected rocks not only for their size and availability, but for their physical properties, knowing which stones could withstand weathering and which could bear tremendous structural loads. Yet, some stones appear to defy the logic of even the most skilled stonemasons. Irregular shapes were intricately interlocked, as if each block had been custom designed to perfectly fit its neighbors, creating a puzzle that seems almost preordained. No two stones are identical, yet the seams are so precise that even a knife cannot be inserted between them. How did human hands, guided by tools rudimentary by today's standards, achieve such flawless integration? And there is the matter of the wall's location. Ollantaytambo sits in a narrow valley where the river curves sharply, a place that would have posed tremendous logistical challenges. The stones had to be quarried, transported, and lifted across uneven terrain. Some researchers point to the existence of nearby quarries, arguing that large stones were carved on site and then maneuvered into place using inclines and levers. Yet, as you look up at the higher terraces, it becomes clear that many of the largest blocks appear to have traveled astonishing distances. The energy, planning, and precision required for such an endeavor strain credulity when one imagines the tools available to the builders, tools that lacked metal wheels, cranes, or modern adhesives. This is where the story begins to drift from the realm of the strictly documented into a space where history and mystery intersect. Some theorists suggest that these walls are not merely the work of Inca ingenuity, but remnants of an older, almost forgotten civilization, a people who may have possessed knowledge that has since vanished. Could these techniques have been passed down through generations, preserved as sacred knowledge, only to be lost over time? Or perhaps the walls are evidence of a more extraordinary capability, one that modern archaeology has yet to fully comprehend. The craftsmanship itself fuels further intrigue. Each wall, each stone, seems to resist the natural decay imposed by centuries of harsh Andean weather. In certain blocks, intricate patterns, lines, angles, and subtle curves appear almost deliberate, yet their purpose remains enigmatic. Are they purely structural, designed to distribute weight and resist seismic activity? Or might they have carried symbolic or astronomical significance, encoding knowledge or stories in the very fabric of the stone? The answer remains elusive. Scholars debate endlessly, pointing to engineering necessity, cultural symbolism, or a blend of both, yet none can fully explain the extraordinary precision exhibited at Ollantaytambo. Adding to the mystery are reports from those who have studied the site closely, from archaeologists to travelers. Some describe a sensation of being dwarfed, not merely by the scale of the walls, but by an intangible presence, an echo of purpose, intelligence, or perhaps even reverence embedded in the very stones. The walls exude a quiet authority, a testament to human ambition and capability that transcends time. How could so many stones, each so carefully selected and shaped, be assembled in a harmonious whole without a profound understanding of balance, physics, and spatial awareness? Was it purely human determination, or was there something more at play, a knowledge now obscured by centuries? Speculative theories abound. Some researchers suggest the possibility of advanced ancient engineering lost to history. Others entertain more unconventional ideas, that the builders might have employed techniques now considered impossible, or that they drew on a kind of knowledge handed down from an earlier epoch, one that predates recorded history. While these notions are not embraced by mainstream archaeology, they cannot be entirely dismissed, for the walls themselves do not yield their secrets easily. Each polished face, each interlocking joint, stands as a silent challenge to anyone who seeks to fully understand the methods behind them. Then there is the cultural context, which provides yet another layer of fascination. Ollantaytambo was more than a fortress. It was a living settlement, a ceremonial center, and a stronghold of defense against invading forces. The walls were built not only to last, but to impress, to project power, and perhaps to connect the earthly realm with the spiritual. Some anthropologists point to the alignment of certain stones with celestial phenomena, suggesting that the placement of blocks might reflect an understanding of astronomy woven into the architecture itself. Did the builders see the stones not only as structural elements but as instruments for communicating with the heavens? Walking along the terraces today, one cannot escape the feeling that each wall has a story, one that is only partially told. Every groove and polished surface invites speculation. Were these feats purely the product of human genius, honed over decades of trial and error? Or did they represent something beyond our conventional understanding of ancient technology, a glimpse of an advanced mastery lost to time? Even the most conservative explanations leave room for wonder. And so, as the sun dips behind the Andes and the valley shadows stretch long, Ollantaytambo stands in silent testimony to both human achievement and enduring mystery. The walls rise, unyielding, defying simple explanation. For every answer provided by archaeology, there remains a question. What else did the builders know, and what knowledge has been irretrievably lost? Could the secrets of these stones reveal insights into civilizations long before the Incas, or even challenge our assumptions about what ancient humans were capable of? The truth is, Ollantaytambo does not surrender its mysteries easily. It asks those who gaze upon it to consider not only what we know, but what we have yet to imagine. And perhaps that is the greatest enigma of all: how a collection of stones, carved, transported, and interlocked with impossible precision, can continue to inspire awe, curiosity, and a profound sense of wonder across the centuries. What lies hidden within these walls may never be fully understood, yet their presence reminds us that history is not merely a record of the past. It is a riddle, waiting patiently for those willing to seek its answer.